podcast. I'm Kyle, joined by my brother Keenan, joined by Kamden Dennis, friend of the show. What's up, fellas? How y'all doing?
Hi, it's good to. It feels like we went on a little vacation. It's good to be back. Obviously, during the season,
A little hiatus.
Went on a little hiatus. I went to Vermont and visited. It was a busy time during that, so we couldn't fit one in there where we wanted to. But we did play basketball. That was good. even through all the smoke and the wildfire. Hopefully, everything's going well still in Canada right now with those crazy wildfires. But yeah, Kamden, how are you? Hold on, Cam.
Cam's audio.
Cam, we can't hear you. You are not. You're not audible at all.
Bang! There we go.
Okay.
Can you hear me now?
Hey, what's good in the hoodie, Cam?
Hello.
I couldn't hear.
Audio off.
Couldn't hear.
Should I just start or what?
No, we're You know what? We were good. We're back. We're getting back in it. Kyle, you want to just start it? You want to just start it over? We didn't say anything crazy. If you want to just start it.
No, we're good. Well, let's go from here. Let's go from here.
Do you want me to cut anything?
No. No, we're good.
Okay, we're chilling then. All
Anyway,
right, guys.
I've been doing great.
Good.
We'll embrace the chaos.
Yep. But yeah, I'm doing good. It was great to go to Vermont and play some ball with you guys. That was super fun.
Yes.
And I've been just traveling around. 4th of July was great. So everything's been going good.
Yeah, my 4th of July was good as well. We're getting back in the flow. Technical difficulties, whatever. Warner Brothas podcast. We are here, but I mean, where in the NBA free agency do you want to start? I mean, Dame's probably the obvious starting point, but we can start anywhere. There's too much going on, or too much that has gone on.
Well, so much has happened since we last recorded. So much happened just before the draft. We had Marcus Smart getting traded. We had Bradley Beal getting traded.
CP3.
God, there's more than that. Yeah, Chris Paul and Jordan Poole. We had so much happen just before the draft. Free agency started, obviously, after the draft, and we had some movement there. We've had some big moves. We had the Dame trade request, as you mentioned. So it's been a lot, and it's been weird, and it's especially different because we ain't been here the last 2 weeks. So, it's like you said, where do we start? I mean, we could go chronologically. I think the first big move was it Smart? Did Smart come before Jordan Poole, Chris Paul, or was Chris Paul, Jordan Poole the first?
I think it came maybe like a day or two before.
And Harden trade request too, technically.
Yeah,
we got that too.
Yes.
Yep. So I forgot about that. Yep.
There's much to talk about. Let's start with Marcus Smart because I mean
we're a 2/3 Celtics podcast
that was a big
here,
one.
so absolutely
Sure. And you know what? I'll try to be short and sweet, but Marcus Smart. Up until the last couple of years, I mean, still probably could call him. I mean, he was really my favorite player in the league up until these last couple of years, I guess, where it kind of, I want to say his act grew tired, but it was all right, Marcus Smart's flopping again. Marcus Smart's doing Marcus Smart's things. He's throwing up a bad shot. Oh, tonight he's going to be point guard. He's going to get 11 assists,
Kind of felt like Draymond.
But before that, he was absolute. Yeah, kind of. I'm sure Warriors fans have a similar relationship with Draymond, especially with him not shooting and such and such. But prior to that, man, he was my favorite player in the league and absolutely my favorite player on the Celtics. And Keenan, right when the trade happened, I was on my way to pick you up. I was at Winston's house, about to leave, about to, dab Winston up, tell him, peace, blah, blah, blah. Literally, right as I'm about to leave, I look at my phone. Marcus Smart traded for Kristaps Porzingus. Now, before that, obviously, was the craziness earlier, where it was originally Porzingus for Brogdon. Clippers back out of that trade because of Brogdon and his physicals or whatever. And I'm kind of thinking the trade's off, and then, I think it was after midnight sometime. Really, same day as the draft, technically. and I see Marcus Smart, and literally as I'm reading it, I'm like, holy shit, you know what I mean? I'm like, oh my God, like what the fuck, you know what I mean? I was not ready for it. Felt a variety of emotions that day, and I think I ended with, and I still feel this way 2-3 weeks later. Still wish he was a Celtic. I'd rather have seen Brogdon go than Marcus Smart, even though Brogdon probably is the more reliable player as far as on the court. But the difference between the two with Marcus Smart is I think Marcus Smart's more reliable to actually be in the game. You know what I mean?
Yes.
As far as injuries, availability.
Yeah.
But you could argue they kept the two better combo guards out of the three, out of Marcus Smart, Derek White, Brogdon. But I don't know, man. We got Kristaps Porzingis, who's super talented. Our team definitely got much larger with Kristaps Porzingis. But for a team that needed toughness, that needed leadership, that needed someone like Chris Paul, honestly, and who was rumored to go to the Celtics. Yeah. And we lose Marcus Smart, the one guy who definitely brought toughness and all that. And we lose Grant yesterday, who's another one who would have brought toughness, which I understand why we let him go. That's understandable. But I don't know. I don't know what to think of it. Even still 2 or 3 weeks later, I'm like, man, that it could be, exactly what we needed, or it could be, exactly what we're missing. So I'm personally, just as a Marcus Smart fan, want to miss him tremendously. He couldn't have gone to a better team that would understand what he brings, or a fan base that you know what I mean? That fan base.
The Grizzlies or the Heat would have been the only two teams that really
Smart.
understood that.
Yep.
Yeah, or any sort of championship team, but especially Memphis, who had the grit and grind, who, had Tony Allen, who was also a former Celtic, Zach Randolph, all those guys. That's exactly what Marcus Smart's about. Yep. You could even say Marcus Smart is exactly who Dillon Brooks thinks he is, that kind of thing.
They got a better Dillon Brooks. Yeah.
I couldn't be more happy.
They did.
More or less. And I couldn't be more happy for Grizzlies fans. It's going to hurt to see him play for Memphis. It's going to suck when he comes back and plays against us. I don't want to compare it to Tom Brady versus, when he was on the Bucks versus the Pats. It's not that at all, but it's going to be weird when he comes back to Boston, because he was the highest tenured Celtic, or the longest tenured Celtic.
9 years.
And,
I didn't know how to breathe.
And embodied everything.
I didn't know
I was in
how to
such
breathe.
denial before that game happened, and then that game actually happened, and it was just, it sucked. But no, it's going to suck to have Marcus come back and be in a Memphis Grizzlies uniform, but I'm glad it's a Grizzlies uniform and not like, I don't know, one of our rivals,
Sixers,
I guess, Lakers uniform, or Sixers. That'd be odd too. That'd be odd, but no, definitely. So, congrats and much respect to Marcus Smart, and interested to hear y'all's thoughts on the trade and the many other offseason moves.
You next, Cam.
I'm up next. So with that move, I'll keep it short and sweet with the Smart 9 years here. Great Celtic. It's going to be interesting to see him not bleeding green with his green hair and everything. I wonder if he'll go blue hair, to be honest.
He should go blue.
He just might. He should
like
go
that
blue.
grayish blue, yeah.
Yep. But all in all, I think that the trade, all teams really won, and I'm pumped. I don't know fully how Brad got first-round picks out of that trade, but he did, and I love it.
Yeah.
I love it. And Kristaps Porzingis is a defensive presence. Yeah, I know. He got multiple. It's sick. Kristaps, he's a defensive presence. He had probably one of his best offensive years this year at the Wizards, and
Low-key.
I'm pretty pumped to see that stretch 4 thing, seeing Al ideally come off the bench, and with Robert Williams' health that we've seen recently, we could slide Porzingis into that 5 slot just because of his size, and I think that really helps that rotation a lot. So I really like that move. For the Grizzlies, I think it's huge for them to go get Smart. I think that it's brilliant, especially with Ja missing 25 games at the beginning of the year. Mm-hmm. Also, they have the last 2 defensive players of the year.
Yes.
That's something I just thought about. They have the last 2, which is huge.
Yes.
I think that young team to have a Smart type of player,
no pun intended,
as in Marcus Smart, will really elevate their playoff experience and their playoff play as a team in a lot of ways. And so I think it's a great move on their part.
It's exactly what they need.
It's exactly what they needed. They needed that, like we have already said, that upgrade of Dillon Brooks to who Marcus Smart is. Dylan Brooks is just trying to become Marcus Smart in every way, and Marcus Smart is going there and setting that up. I will say that I like Tyus Jones a lot that they had, and they just got rid of him, and I think that would help them out a lot. But Marcus Smart also helps fill in that role too. So I'm not sure what Marcus Smart's role will be yet, if he's going to start or come off the bench in the long run with Bane and John Morant.
Starting.
I don't know if they're going 3 small with Adams and also JJJ. I'm not sure what they're going to do. But if he comes off the bench, he could definitely get 6th man of the year. So I'm pretty pumped about that team too.
Yeah. So I do, for the Celtics perspective, I like it. They get an interior presence there too. I mean, Porzingus can't slide as well, obviously, but being 7'3", 7'4" with a long wingspan, he's shown that he can block shots in the league, so that does help there. Obviously a stretch 4, a knockdown shooter, but a guy who, when Tatum goes to the bench, you really can run an offense through him. So I think that gives a new facet of when Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum, it seems like when they go cold, things try to go through Marcus Smart, and Marcus Smart isn't really an offensive, like, I'm going to go get you a bucket guy. Porzingis really can be, when they're off, can be like, okay, we can throw it down to him on the block, and he can go get you a bucket to kind of stop runs and things like that. So I do like that for the Celtics. And when you have Derek White and Malcolm Brogdon, you don't necessarily need Smart. But it's weird because the Celtics kind of needed not a culture switch, but a little culture jolt, I'll call it, just because I think they have gotten a little almost stagnant in their way. Just like they kept going through the same kind of problems with the turnovers.
They couldn't come back with...
Go on.
They couldn't come back with the same group.
Yes.
They couldn't come back with the same group, that's for sure.
Yeah.
Yes. So I think they got a little stagnant. They needed a little jolt. Not like we have to break up the whole entire band. They just needed a little jolt. And then, so I think that was good, but it's going to be interesting to see who starts the culture. I think this is a year that Jason Tatum really can propel himself into maybe that next level of superstardom, where instead of putting him in his own tier, we can really put him with that Steph Curry, that kind of ilk, because he has the talent for it. He just needs, like, once he gets to command of the team, maybe that could be his role, or someone else steps up. We'll see. And then from the Memphis side, I think you did a good job of filling in Ja for the first 25 games. They've done about as well with Ja without Ja. Not that they're a better team, but record-wise throughout the regular season, they've done pretty well without him, which is a testament to Taylor Jenkins and that whole roster being able to play with whomever's on the court. So, but Marcus Smart adds a toughness. Weird because he's a veteran. He mentally doesn't feel like a veteran. He's still kind of, because he was part of that young nucleus, but he really is. He's been in the league 9 years. He's seen a finals. He's seen multiple conference finals. He's been in pretty much every situation you can possibly be in. So he is a true veteran in the league, so he can help lead that Grizzlies team, who can sometimes be led astray by their own ego, to be like, oh yeah, like, we don't see anybody in the West like Ja, we need to calm down with that. Like Dylan Brooks thinking that I don't respect anybody who'll get 40 on me. Like things like that, Marcus Smart can kind of be like, guys, this is not how you get to the promised land. So I think it's good for both teams, and it'll be interesting moving forward to see what the Celtics put around the last, like, kind of finishing veteran pieces that they put around their roster going into next season.
Yeah, it'll be interesting. You know, they got, like I said, Mavs got Grant yesterday for 3 second-rounders.
I like the Mavs, what they're doing.
So, yeah, like you said, it will be interesting to see. Yeah, I do kind of like the Mavs roster a little bit more than I did 6 weeks ago. You know,
if they would have gotten Thibault, it would have been a bigger pick. But if
they got Thibault, that would have been huge.
Yes, it would have been absolutely. But I do like they traded for Kyrie last year, and they gave up defense and Finney Smith. Like they gave up their defensive prowess. And then this offseason, it's like, okay, we retained Kyrie, so that trade wasn't for nothing. Because if that's a terrible trade if they just get rid of all of that, have Kyrie on a half-year rental, don't even make the play-in, and then he goes. Yeah, no, you can't do that. So that 3-year extension, obviously with Kyrie, we have to see if Mr. Sabbatical himself, what he's going to do throughout the season. But you retain Kyrie, so you at least don't lose that, so that trade means something. Plus, now you're trying to fill in. You get Grant Williams. You gain Seth Curry. You sign Rashawn Holmes. So, like, they're Dwight Powell, they re-signed. So they're getting pieces there. Thibault would have been a big piece because that's really a defensive stopper. But there are other people and other pieces that can possibly fit in there. So I do like what the Mavs are doing right now.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, they get a versatile defender in Grant who shoots 40% from the field or from the three. So
perfect 3-and-D guy.
That's hard to find in the league. Yeah. Yeah, especially for Luka. I do have a question for you guys. We'll get right to it with our off-season questions.
Yeah.
You mentioned Kyrie. You said it's a 3-year deal. I believe. Is it 4 years? So isn't it a 4-year player option? Player options on the fourth year.
I think it's 3-year, 126.
Yeah, I saw 126.
Okay. And there's an option somewhere in there, but
it's
how many years
going into the 3? Sorry, go on.
Interesting. I'll look up just to make sure. But how many years do you think Kyrie plays for the Mavs? He's asked for a trade from his last 3 teams. He asked for a trade from Brooklyn. He more or less asked for a trade from Boston, even though he didn't. So I guess I'll give him a pass on Boston, but he got his ass up out of there. And he asked for a trade from the Cavs. How do you think this goes with the Mavericks? Do you see him fulfilling his deal?
Yes and no. So quickly, and then Cam, you can go.
Yeah.
If there is a player option, I think he plays until the player option, then opt out and see what goes on. So he'll play I believe he'll play the next 2 with the Mavs, and next year will be kind of a putting it together year, and then that 3rd year will be kind of results based. I mean, with Kyrie, it could be like they could win a championship and he could still want to leave, but I think it's going to be results based. With every tenure he's had, he's at least stayed a couple years. So he stayed a couple years in Brooklyn. He was a couple years, obviously he was multiple years in Cleveland, couple years with the Celtics. So he doesn't just dip after the first season, and he's only been there like less than half a season. So I think he would be there 2 years, and then we'll see what we see from there. But Kamden, you're good.
Yeah, for me, I want to say he'll fulfill the whole contract in Dallas. I think that the Nets one was a little bit, just that organization was just so bad on the top that all of them wanted to leave. Durant, Harden.
I disagree with that.
And Kyrie. Okay. I just don't think that their run as well, and he wanted out of that place in a lot of ways. And going into a place like the Mavs, who have had stars there, who have had success. Mark Cuban's a great owner. I like their coaches. I like everything kind of going on there. My one thing is he is a guy that will ask for a trade when things don't go his way. And I don't know. I really don't know what the Luka Kyrie thing looks like yet. We haven't seen enough of it yet.
He played with LeBron, so he could probably figure. Some LeBron stylistic-ish kind of guy, heavy ball handler. We'll go from there. So we'll see.
And it'll be interesting because, like, it's so whack to me to think of him as a 2, as a shooting guard kind of role. But it's fine. They're both ISO players, so it's going to be interesting. But the other thing I have about Kyrie is he's a guy that I think if he stays for all 3 years, he's going to have to recruit somebody. And a third person's going to have to come in there for him to want to really, truly stay there and make it feel like that. But that's my 2 cents on the Kyrie stuff.
Yep. What do you think?
I just want to shoot Brooklyn some bail. Okay. I just want to shoot Brooklyn some bail, and I don't think their front office is necessarily bad. I think they were in bed with 3 of the most finicky star players you can get in Kyrie, James Harden, and Kevin Durant. And we especially see that with Harden and Kyrie, you know. I think if Kyrie would have gotten offered a similar contract by a different team, depending on who that team is, he runs to them. There was really no market for Kyrie. And then, we'll talk about Harden here in a sec. So I want to shoot Brooklyn some bail there. I don't think their front office is necessarily bad as much as
I will say this, though.
I want to say they're great either. I want to say they're great either. What's up?
They tried to make that work, is the thing, though. They grabbed all those guys knowing that those three dudes were finicky.
They did, but Kyrie and KD had him by the balls and was kind of like, hey, you do this or else, basically. And it still ended up shooting him in the foot.
I would have traded Kyrie for Harden.
With Kyrie,
but listen, I said it at the time. I'm just going to say it one more time. I would have traded Kyrie for Harden. I don't care. KD would have figured it out. I would have traded Kyrie for Harden.
KD would have asked for a trade instantly.
Oh! If he had Harden, I think he would have
end up in the same position.
I think if he had Harden, he might have stayed. I do.
He left Golden State for Kyrie. Remember that?
No, I do remember that.
For Kyrie specifically.
I do remember that, but I do think if you say,
that's
hey,
the context.
this Kyrie guy loves his sabbaticals. Like this is Pete Kyrie doing his cool things. You trade Kyrie, get Harden.
You remember though, this was pre-COVID Kyrie when they made that trade. Though this was before he was really acting up.
Yeah, I mean, not pre-COVID. I mean, Kyrie, yes, but I mean, the Harden trade happened after.
Did it?
Yes, the Harden trade happened after COVID.
That's right, because KD was injured that first season. You're right.
KD was injured. I believe this was like Kyrie coming like off of his sabbatical. Was that, or like it might have been right before?
This was after. Might have been right. I think this was after his injury
Simmons too.
But anyways,
they had Ben Simmons. It's crazy to think that they had Ben Simmons too.
Yeah, anyways, I just think at the time I would have traded James. I mean, I said this on the pod way back. I would have traded James Harden pretty much straight for Kyrie, and maybe at one, because you would have been able to keep pieces, and then you would have had an actual team around them. And they might have a ring right now. We don't know. We will never know. That's just this is basketball banter in the basketball what if land, which is always the fun land to delve into. But you can go on with what you were saying, Kyle.
Shit, I don't even remember where I was. I just think Kyrie. No. I mean, we had a good conversation. I just think Kyrie. I would be shocked if Kyrie. We're in 2023. I'd be shocked if we're going into the year 2027, the 2026 offseason into 2027, and we're talking about Kyrie ending his last season with the Mavericks as a free agent, now looking for his next team. I wouldn't be surprised if in 3 or 4 months he tries to angle his way to the Lakers or the Clippers. I would not be surprised in the least. His contract becomes tradable. I believe the date for the NBA is usually December 15th. I just would not be surprised if before the season ends, we see Kyrie there or see Kyrie trying to get out of there. Because while he might not have complained or we didn't see – sure. I just want to say real quick, while we didn't see him necessarily complain about Dallas, it didn't seem like he was raving about Dallas, even like he was about Boston in his early days in Boston, or even committed to Brooklyn as he was. I completely was – and I said this – I believe when he got traded to Dallas, I was completely ready for him to have a new team this summer. I thought he was going to the Lakers for sure this summer. So I just would not, whether it's 1 season, 2 seasons, a half a season, I would not be shocked or surprised to see Kyrie angling his way out of Dallas. But I do like what Dallas did with their roster. I think it complements him and Luka well. I really love them bringing Seth Curry back. As well as the Grant Williams signing and the defensive versatility they have. They have tradable pieces. So if they
building a roster,
if they can make that work, if they can make that work. You got shooters around Luka and Kyrie. They can each kind of be that combo guard, Luka and Kyrie. I think they complement each other well. If they can play defense, I don't think we're talking about a contender here, not yet at least, but. They're certainly better than last year, which is, something that you'd want to say if you have Luka and Kyrie. So
they're one of those puncher. Kyrie? I was about to say they're one of those puncher chances contenders. Not like where like a true go into the season like they definitely have championship aspirations, but one of those teams if they gel well, you're like okay, they get the right break, maybe they can get something. Is what I think you're starting to see with them.
They could be a 4. They could be a 4 seed and the
4 or 5 seed, and then
in the right breaks for them. You know what I mean?
Yep. Yeah, mess around from there, see what happens. But
the West is serious still.
Yeah, the West is still okay. Higher chance Kyrie retires or finishes out his contract. With
3
doubt.
years.
So, I might put it on.
It's bad that we have to think about it. If we all have to think about it, that tells you your answer right there.
It's about 50-50. I think he could.
It is. I don't think he stays, but it's close.
It's tough because I do think he goes 2 years. I don't.
Kyrie's one of the only
contract.
Kyrie's one of the only players I can see retiring early, and if he retired, I would take it equally as serious as I would unserious because I'd be like, all right, it's Kyrie. Who knows what he's thinking 2 weeks from now? But then I would also say that's Kyrie. He's hella stubborn. Maybe he never plays again. I don't know. I really don't know. I find it hard to believe he's going to be a Maverick. Like I said, going into the 2026-27 offseason or whatever it is.
That's fair.
I think he'll definitely play on one other team.
Okay.
And who knows? I mean, who knows what happens with Luka? I don't know when Luka's contract is up exactly. But who knows? I mean, Dallas hasn't done themselves any favors with Luka, aside from firing Rick Carlisle, which you could argue is a terrible decision. He's a Hall of Fame coach. So I mean, their roster building around Luka has not been great the entire time. This is probably the best job they've done. So it's a wait and see kind of thing. Having been rooting for a team that's had Kyrie before. When it's great, it's fucking great. It's amazing. When it's bad, it's bad. And funny enough, Esteban Ramos, when the first James Harden news came up, he was all about trading James Harden for Kyrie, which was, crazy to think just because, how unreliable Kyrie could be. But it was funny to hear that coming from him, for sure. But I'd probably take Kyrie before James Harden, honestly. But that's neither here nor there.
It depends on the team. I think player for player, I think Kyrie right now is probably a better player than I was going to say, I have him on the ranking. I have Kyrie a better player than Harden if you're going straight up. I think depending on the team, I might have James Harden over Kyrie. And just to clarify, because you had asked quickly, Luka's in the second year of a 5-year max deal, and he has a player option in that last year. So 26-27 would be the year he has a player option. So he in the 2026 going
same
into
window.
that 6 off season. Pretty much the same window. So that 3 years they got Luka and Kyrie essentially for the next 3 years, but we never know. If Luka wanted out tomorrow, he would probably be traded by the end of the season. Obviously it's the NBA now where players kind of control their own destiny. A little less with this new CBA, but they kind of controlled their own destiny. So, but yeah. So I'm not. I don't know if you had another point or not. If not, I was gonna let's just talk about Dame now. Let's get it in because Dame.
Let's talk Dame.
Let's talk about Damian Lillard.
Let's talk about Dame Dalla himself. I'm gonna go quickly here. Obviously, he's trying to make it so he goes to Miami and nowhere else. Like today, he just came out with I'm not going anywhere but Miami. Obviously, the Blazers are in a position right now where they have 4 years on his deal. They don't have to move him. But it's now starting to probably deter other teams from really putting in serious offers because it's like, is he coming? Is he going? Would he actually be happy there? The thing about Dame is he's not like Harden in the sense like Harden would fat his way out of somewhere. Dame's like KD, like when KD requested a trade last year, but KD played every game that he was healthy, he was on the court and he was playing hard because that's just who KD is. When it's basketball time, it's basketball time. He's going to play that. The same thing with Dame. When it's basketball time, it's basketball time. I'm just going to go play regardless, even though I may want to do this, I may want to do that. I think for Portland's sake, it would be great to trade him before the year starts because clearly they are moving forward for the future. You've got Scoot, you've got Anthony Simons, you've got – I always forget their third.
Grant. Jeremy Grant.
They got Jeremy Grant, but there's like Simmons.
Yusuf Nurkic.
Shaden Sharp, thank you. I always forget his name, but I was going to say, they've got young pieces there where they can start to mold into the next generation, I'll say, of the Blazers. But Dame is that last. Dame and Nurkic are really that last piece to move out of there. Nurkic's contract's tough to move, but so I do think Dame's going to end up in Miami. It'll probably end up being a 3-team trade because they really are set on not wanting Hero, even though it kind of confuses me because Hero's 23, averages 21, 5, and 4 last year. So it's not like he's a terrible player by any means. And he's young. I don't know. I felt like you could probably get him and flip him or even get him and have him there for a year. I don't think he really hurts the development of any of your younger guys, but I do think Dame's going to end up getting to Miami, and I'm kind of, because I pay attention more to media, I know, than you guys possibly do. I'm getting annoyed of hearing about it. I kind of just want it to happen. It's been like nonstop of like, hey, he may get this, he may get that. Dame, Blazers, Miami, work out the trade, get him over in Miami, and then we can be the favorites.
Go ahead, Cam.
Yeah, so for me, this thing has been really tricky because, like, the Blazers kind of, I feel like, have to honor Dame with what he wants because of who he has been for them for so long and just staying loyal and all that. But also, they got to get the best deal that they can get. Like, it's a business when it comes down to it, and if other people are offering other things that are better, then you got to do it. Now, here's the thing that's tricky with this, I think. I think Portland is looking at some of the trades we saw last year, such as Rudy Gobert and DeJounte Murray, and what they got for those two dudes.
KD.
And saying, how did these Utah Jazz get these players and these draft picks for Rudy Gobert? I deserve this much more for Damian Lillard. And I just don't know what that's going to look like. Damian Lillard's deal and his contract is kind of crazy for how old he is in some ways. And so any other team outside of the Heat, I don't really know if they're going to do it. So if Dame's going somewhere, it's going to be the Heat or I don't know what the Trailblazers' idea is yet, but I could see a Dame to the 76ers and him being happy about that for James Harden and something else. I don't know what that deal would look like yet, but I think Dame and Joel Embiid could work. It would be fun to watch. I really do see him going to the Heat in the long run. I see this weird things of like the 5 teams that want him and the Celtics wanting him. I would be kind of pissed if they traded Jaylen Brown for Damian Lillard right now. So that's not my favorite move. I really hope that he ends up in the Heat, and I would love him in that jersey, and I think they should just do the deal that they've been offered or add a third team. I just don't know what that looks like yet.
Yeah. Kyle, you're good to go, and then I'll respond.
Yeah, no, I think, look, anytime this happens with a star where they request a trade and then, like, the first team that's linked to them, everyone just thinks, like, that's where they're going. Rarely do they ever go to that team. I will say the 2 times it did actually happen, and I was surprised by it, was James Harden going to Brooklyn, because that was rumored like within that week or 2, and then it actually ended up happening. And then KD with the Suns, because he made it pretty clear last summer he wanted to go to Phoenix, and then he requested the trade quietly.
Yeah,
Anthony Davis too, but that was a bit different. We all knew it was going there. He signed with Clutch over All-Star Weekend and some bullshit. Like that one was a little more forward. You know what I mean?
Obvious, yeah.
But yes, you're correct. Anthony Davis to the Lakers. But and then like you guys both said, you know, if your best package for Damian Lillard is Tyler Hero, who is a good young player, but if I got Damian Lillard, who just is fresh off of scoring 70 in a game, is fresh off what was he, second team All-NBA?
I think second team, he averaged 32 last year.
Yeah.
Yeah. I want a little more than Tyler Hero, especially if I got Scoot and Anthony who can both hoop. Like this is a young team, but you give me the right piece back, I can be a play-in team. I'm not trading Dame for Tyler Hero unless that third team's got some real pieces that I can get back. And that's what's crazy about all this is. And then you know what? If they don't, you keep Dame. Because like you said, they don't have to trade Dame.
He'll play.
Like Keenan said, Yeah, he'll play. He's not going to be James Harden. He's not going to make it uncomfortable for you. So I could see it. I could definitely see a scenario where, we see Dame getting moved at the trade deadline, and who knows
like
what
KD.
all the rosters look like.
Yeah.
Kind of like KD.
I don't think he gets
and
traded
his was a
over
little more.
Yeah.
His was a little more specific. But what were you saying, Cam?
I don't think he gets traded before the season starts. I really don't. I don't think they get the deal they want before the season starts.
I'm starting to trend that way as well. But if there were a team to do it, if there was a team with the best package for him, it is the Celtics of Boston and Jaylen Brown, who has yet to sign his Supermax extension. Just throwing that out there. And then there was a report today that the Celtics are keeping Jaylen Brown, which I was like, cool. Like, they have no intention of getting on the Dame sweepstakes. I don't believe that for a sec. Brad Stevens showed his inner Danny Ainge with trading Marcus Smart. He didn't even let Marcus Smart know, which was baffling to me because if there was one person you told me was in Marcus Smart's corner, it was Brad Stevens. Smart's been in trade rumors the entire Danny Ainge era into this Brad Stevens era, as Brad Stevens as president of basketball ops, right? Always thrown in trade rumors, this and that, and then Brad Stevens, lo and behold, trades him when it was originally going to be Brogdon. So now that they're coming out, they didn't come out and say last year when Jaylen was in these KD discussions, they didn't come out and deny it at all. Now all of a sudden they come out and deny it with Dame Lillard. I think that could be a smokescreen. I wouldn't be surprised if Jaylen, at some point, maybe it's in February, it doesn't have to be this offseason, but I would not be surprised if that was the move. Because by far, that trumps Tyler Hero and some picks, Boston's picks. I think they have other teams' picks they could move. They wouldn't just be their late round picks, which would be similar to Miami's because they're both always in the playoffs. But that's the best package if Portland wanted to wait. And it probably will get awkward if he does go into the season and it's Scoot, it's Anthony Simons, and it's Dame. Yeah, that could get awkward. Scoot's ready to start and play right now. That could be an okay team, low-key. They won't be a contender, but they could be a play-off team with their roster as currently constructed. So I don't know, man. It's going to get messy. It's going to get weird. If he does get traded, I just don't see it being Miami. That would have happened a week ago if that was the case. You know what I mean? So I don't see it unless, like I said, if that third team comes in and, it's enough pieces for Portland and enough pieces for Miami as well, because they'd get pieces coming back, and then that third team, I don't know. That's a lot. It's a lot, and this new CBA has a lot of ramifications. I just don't know. I don't see it happening.
Yeah.
So at least not this offseason. If it happened in February, I could see that.
I do think Dame will end up in Miami. I actually do think it happens before the season. The Jamie Jaquez Jr.
For Tyler Hero?
Hold on.
And Jamie Jaquez.
No, hold on.
Man.
No, hold on. I'm not saying that that's the trade. I'm saying that there could be a 3-team trade. I mean, you have to think Pat Riley's the guy who put off a 5-team trade. So, he could happen. I'm not saying that it's going to be exactly that, because obviously the package right now is Tyler Hero, Nikola Jovic, Jaquez Jr., Caleb Martin possibly, and then a 2027 and a 2029 first.
And Jovic is the key.
They're giving up Jovic.
If Jovic comes out, if Jovic comes out, let's say this trade doesn't happen. I'm saying if this trade doesn't happen in the offseason and Jovic ends up getting minutes for Miami, because he didn't play much last year, but let's say he plays 20 to 23 minutes for Miami and really is that prospect he's supposed to be, because he was considered a steal where he was drafted by Miami last year. If he could show he was, that force, because I think he's 6'10", 6'11", he can shoot, he can handle, he's got some athleticism. Yes. If he can show he's that, then that changes the Dame trade a little bit. Because if you're getting that with Hero, then okay, cool. We just haven't seen it. He didn't play much last year. He got mostly garbage time minutes. So, I don't know. It doesn't really behoove Portland to do anything right now. You know what I mean?
Yeah, no, the only thing is going into the season, if you want Scoot to be Scoot, obviously not that it's going to completely hinder him, but it's going to kind of set his timetable back just a hair, because you're obviously going to be starting and playing Dame 36-plus minutes a game because, again, it's Damian.
I think it enhances him.
I don't think
if you're playing with Dame Lillard, that only enhances your game.
I don't think it...
Especially as a point guard.
I don't, because he's a point guard as well. I think if you had someone like
Dame
Chris,
spotting
I
up in
think
the
if
corner.
Dame's not going to come off the ball like that. Dame's going to have the ball in his hands. I think if you had someone like
Dame's played with C.J. McCollum. He's played and Anthony Simons. Those are both guards with balls in their hands. You know what I mean?
don't think Dame's going to just spot up though. I mean, you have all three of them.
If Scoot's in the game, he's going to spot up. Yeah, he's an all-world shooter. They're going to have Scoot on the ball at times. It's not going to be like completely off the ball.
Of course,
like
they're going to have people
but
around, but I think that like if this is going to be Scoot's team going forward. Going into the season, if you have Dame, it's not Scoot's team. That's my point in saying that. Yes, they're going to play next to each other.
Only enhance Scoot's.
I wouldn't say it enhances.
That's only going to enhance Scoot though. If you're playing with a future Hall of Famer, that's not going to detract from your game, especially someone who complements your game in a slash and kick league.
I guess. I mean, it just depends on how they play him and how they have the system. I mean, it all depends. But anyways, regardless, if he is there and it enhances his game, if he's not there and it doesn't, regardless, whatever, it doesn't really make too much of a difference here. What I was saying was I think that the Heat are going to be able to get a 3-team trade done prior to, because they are definitely an organization that has done that in the past. We'll see, though, because we don't know with Dame.
I don't see it.
Okay, we'll see.
I don't see it.
And we'll see when we see.
I think there's other teams.
There's no one's given an offer.
It depends on contracts. It depends on contracts, but man, if Boston wanted to offer Jaylen Brown,
I don't think they will.
I
was saying if Boston wanted to offer Jaylen Brown,
they won't do that. He's too old to do that.
I just don't know.
I mean, if they don't give him an extension, they're definitely not going to.
No, Damian Lillard's too old for the Celtics to be cool with that. Celtics are only good if they keep Brown.
I don't know.
It's tough.
I mean,
like you said, if it's mid-season, yes.
You got Dame and Tatum. You got Dame.
Don't
Tatum
get me
and
wrong,
Porzingus
that's nice.
And everyone else.
But in 2 years, Dame's going to turn into Chris Paul, and you're just paying him $35 million.
Also, has Jaylen Brown? I mean, do you think Jaylen Brown signs by February?
I hope so.
Because if he doesn't,
I would assume he signs before. I think he has until September to sign.
I'm just saying, because if you don't, then he's going into the season, and I don't know if he stays in Portland for a season. So, I mean, you have to think of what team's best interest is for trading for Dame. The 76ers do not want to give up Tyrese Maxey, so if they don't give up Maxey, the Tyler Hero and everything is not going to be better than the Harden, because obviously you're just trading an old superstar for an old star who's not going to get you over the hump. So what's the point in that, especially with Harden have a couple of years on his deal? The Spurs really don't have anything to offer him. These are all the teams that are linked. The Jazz, I mean, they possibly could, but he wouldn't want to get traded.
What about the Clippers, though?
So I don't think that. I mean, the Clippers aren't going to give up Paul George nor Kawhi Leonard, and if they don't do that, then they're not going to have a package.
I'd give up PG.
Again, I mean, if the Celtics were to give up Jaylen Brown, they have a better deal. If the 76ers were to give up Tyrese Maxey, they would have a better deal. If the Clippers were to give up Paul George, they would have a better deal. These teams that would have the possibility and the capabilities of having a better deal. I mean, obviously, if the Heat give up Bam, they'd have a better. But like, for what the Heat are offering, doesn't make
the team good.
No, for what the Heat are offering, no one's offered or even remotely said they're offering a better deal as of right now, which is why I don't think, because the market out there. I mean, obviously, there's a market.
If you're Portland, then you keep them. It doesn't make your team better to trade. If that's not the trade you want, you don't just do it just because.
But then you would have to trade Ant and Fareed Simon.
At some point you're gonna want to move off of him. Like if he clearly is demanded to trade and wants to be out, at some point you're gonna move off of him. Like you're not just gonna keep him all 4 years for his contract.
No, but he's gonna play. Like if you don't trade him immediately, he's gonna play at least until the deadline. Then they'll revisit at the deadline. But no, obviously not the 4 years. But you don't have to trade him just because he asked for a trade. I mean. Why the contract's there.
Well, of course, I'm not saying that they're gonna. I just think the deal will get done, but I'm not gonna. If it doesn't get done until the All-Star break, or if it doesn't even get done until the off season, I guess. I mean, next year's off season, I guess. I just think it will get done, but if it doesn't, it doesn't. And my point was with Jones, with Jock, is you can't trade him for like another 27 days. So if Miami was to offer a trade and have him in the package, they wouldn't be able to actually accept it and make a deal within the next 20 days. So you won't see it if their rookie this year is going to be in the trade. That was really the point what I was trying to bring up with that, and then we went on different tangents.
Yep.
And Portland has all the leverage. Dame has no trade clause like Bradley Beal did. So it's not like he can say like, no, I'm not going to this team. I'm not going to this team. So if they get any sort of offer at any time, and again, it helps Portland the fact that Dame still got 3 or 4 years left on his contract. If he had 1 or 2, okay, then maybe we do trade him to Miami or something like that. Then we do have, we're under pressure to make a deal. The fact that it's 4 years and, teams can kind of wait, see what happens, see how Portland plays, see how your young players develop and how they play, and watch their players become trade pieces. I think this, like Cam said, I think this only increases the timeline here. I don't think he gets traded before, training camp. I don't.
They probably want to see Jovic play.
Yeah, because I think he's the key, because he is one that if he's what he's supposed to be as a prospect, he could be someone you want as a foundation for your franchise, Not necessarily a franchise player, but you want him as a, B or C block next to your A block being Scoot. So, yeah, no, they could, you see Jovic ball out for 20 or 30 games, then, yeah, that increases it completely. Yeah, give me him and Hero. But currently constructed, Portland doesn't have to move for Dame, even though they both, that's clearly the decision they both wanted. But, no, they don't have to move for him right now. And it would be stupid to, But especially if you don't know what you have in Jovic if you're Portland. But, we'll see. This is an ongoing situation, clearly, and I can't wait to see how awkward it gets.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see moving forward. So I do have a question. Thus far, who do you feel has the best offseason? What teams had the best offseason thus far?
I like what the Lakers have done.
Don't all jump at once. I agree, but go on.
I like what the Lakers have done. They re-signed Austin Reeves, which I thought was big. I'm shocked no one really threw the bag at him. I thought that was going to happen for sure and put some pressure on LA.
I didn't get that contract.
And they just
They got him on a great deal.
If you think about his contract,
because he could have signed for $98 million.
Yeah, 4 years,
Yeah.
56. That's that's a great deal for Austin Reeves, especially because
that's cheap for him.
I just said Bruce Brown did 2 for 45 or something.
Yeah, in 2 years, Austin Reeves could be one of the most underpaid players in the league, because if he keeps not that he's gonna get to superstar level or anything, but at post All-Star break, he was averaging 17 a game. If he comes in this year, same kind of thing, gets up to 20 a game. It's not like it's a crazy jump from 17 to 20, in that portion. He could be a 20-point per game guy, really a third option on a borderline championship team. That is a very valuable piece that's more than 13 and a half a year. So he could end up being something like that. They got him on a great deal, and also getting Gabe Vincent, I think that's a great pickup. You got a guy who can orchestrate an offense for a 10-minute stretch if he needs to. Say LeBron goes to the bench. If Austin Reeves, you can put him off ball. But also when Bron's on the court and orchestrating the offense, that's a spot-up guy. Plus, he's going to play hard defensively. He's not going to be there. He's not a liability, obviously. We saw him throughout the playoffs play good defense on Jamal Murray, all the other guards that he played against, Brogdon, Smart, and going forth. So I think they've had a great offseason. I think the Lakers, personally, to me, have had probably the best. And they even got D'Angelo if they need to trade somebody for a little trade piece, too. So I like what they've done.
Yeah, they got deeper. Yes. It's the ongoing thing with LA. I'm interested to see if LeBron really does give the keys to AD, like he said he was going to 4 years ago.
Or if he takes them.
Yeah, if he takes them. So I don't know. The Lakers are kind of an ongoing story. I think LeBron's for sure there, at least this year, and then he can kind of opt out, and he's kind of tied to whatever Bronny does. So that's a story I'm interested in following, because I think regardless, if this season for some reason went sour, I don't see LeBron demanding a trade, because he's going to want to be there at least until, March with Bronny? And, that's past the trade deadline. So I don't imagine if the Lakers bought LeBron out in March and LeBron just was free to go to any contender.
That would be
insane.
hilarious.
That would be
hilarious.
absolutely
He would go to the Warriors. I already know it. Like I already have like a feeling he would go to. He would because like Golden. If there was gonna be one team that could seamlessly put him in like instantly to their offense, it would be Golden State. He would just be like, "Hey, I'm gonna be a better Draymond Green. Draymond, you be the rim runner guy. Like I'm gonna just be a better you." That would be crazy.
He'd be like, "Okay, LeBron."
They'd be like, all right,
so how do y'all feel about the Warriors offseason with the Jordan Poole moves? Jordan Poole for Chris Paul.
I gotta talk about my best grade.
It's a weird one.
Camden,
my
Camden, you talk
fault.
about your best grade and then go right into the Warriors. We'll give you the floor for like 8 minutes. Thanks, friend. You just go.
I would say the Lakers would have one of the best, but I personally think a team that I liked more than that, we talked about them already, is the Mavericks. I think getting Kyrie back, which is something that I did not think they were going to do, is actually huge. I think that addition, I really truly went into this year thinking that they did not get him back, and they did, which is great. They also got Grant Williams, which is huge. I love Holmes. He's another big dude. Seth Curry has played best there. He's been best on that team. A dude that I'm excited to see back is they got Dante Exum, who I haven't seen in forever. And that name is mad funny to me because I think he was supposed to be really good. He was a top lottery pick, and he was nothing. But I'm really, really into this team. I'm really loving what they've done to make this team a somewhat defensive unit with this Luka and Kyrie bad off defense unit that they have going on. So I really like what they've put around there. Trading Bertans for some cap space was huge. So I really like the Mavs. Probably, honestly, a little bit more than the Lakers, because the Lakers also got back some people, but I expected them to run it back again in a lot of ways. And they did make some additions, not going to lie. But I don't know what Gabe Vincent fully looks like on that team yet either. So I really like what the Mavs did, personally.
If they would have gotten Thibault, I would agree with you. I think the Lakers, because they didn't end up getting Thibault, I think the Lakers edge them out for me personally. But I definitely respect what the Mavericks have done. But you go on with your Warriors thoughts, too. How their offseason has been.
I just want to say before you go, Cam, I had no idea that the Mavericks signed Dante Exum. I had no idea about that. I just looked it up. He must have. My memory must be cloudy because it said he last played in 21 for the Cavs, and it said he played 6 games. So he must have had a season-ending injury for them and just sat out all of the last 2 years.
I guess.
Or maybe he played overseas. I don't know what happened, but that's
I don't know what happened.
He's in theory a good pickup. I don't know. Former lottery picks who were like him, he's like a big guard. He's like 6'6" and a point guard. That's intriguing to me because that could go well with the right coach. You know what I mean? If he buys in defensively, like Dennis Smith Jr. is like that. Like he's a good. Go ahead.
Sorry, I was just going to give you information. He played in the Euro League. He actually didn't start every game. He started 17 of his 63 games. He played in 21-22 and 22-23. So he's been in the Euro. He's been overseas. So that's what Dante's been doing.
Got you. Yeah. No, I just really just wanted to say like how former lottery picks who kind of flame out intrigue me as bench options.
Marco Carter
same
Williams.
with the NFL too, because Carter Williams. He's an interesting one. He's a really weird one. He like peaked in his first game of the season, first game of his career. He peaked.
Yep.
It was weird. But okay, Cam. You go on your Warriors.
So, CP3 to the Warriors is confusing to me. / interesting with, I wonder if they held off on that trade for a while and are in on this Damian Lillard talk, what that team would look like. Because Damian Lillard, I think, would be interested in playing with the Warriors, and that would be a crazy team. Yeah. But CP3 to the Warriors.
Splash Brothers on steroids.
Yep. I do not love it, to be honest. I like the idea of Steph playing the 2 in some ways, but this team is going to be so small. I don't know what they're going to... If Draymond Green's going to be your 5 and Wiggins is your 4, your team is really, really small. And CP3 plays. He's a slow player, and the Warriors want to play fast, in my opinion. They want to play fast. They want to run and gun. They want to go. CP3, he's going to see, and you're going to run a play with him in a lot of different ways. You're not zooming, and he's not the best three-point shooter. And I don't think the Warriors were the best three-point shooting team last year, and they won't be this year. They don't have the dudes besides Clay and Curry, which I think they're great, and Wiggins can be on and off at some points. But there's teams out there that can go 5 deep with three-point shooters like the Nuggets. And I'm just not loving the CP3 move. I'm interested in it. I don't think it helps them defensively, though. And I don't know what that offense looks like. For the Wizards, I think they're going to be bad. But if you play fantasy basketball, I would definitely pick up Jordan Poole because he's going to shoot.
That's
all
25 a game. It depends on what kind of league you play. Like, and the league that Kyle and I play with, like Nate Kennison and everybody, the categories league, he might not be a great pick because he'll put up points, but the percentages might not be there because he's going to be putting a volume. But at the same time, he might get you assists. He might put up like 26, 3, and 7. Like that. That's very possible for Jordan Poole. So depending on what league you play in, Jordan Poole definitely could be a fantasy option. But,
I
7
don't
assists
love
for
the
Jordan
move.
Poole.
He was kind of around 25 and 7 when Steph was out. Like when Steph's out, it's kind of where he was. I mean, he might be like at 5, but like 7's a possibility. Not that I think it might happen. I just think he's got the ball in his hands so much that he is a decent passer. It's just if he's willing or not to pass.
And I think he'll have it more on this team. And one last thing with CP3.
Him and Kuzma will be crazy.
They will be. One more thing with CP3 is, I know it's not his choice, per se, that he went to the Warriors, but I'm like, this is such a cop-out. CP3, Chris Paul, you've been just owned by the Warriors and Steph Curry for so long. For so long, this team has owned you, and Steph Curry has owned you. And
it's not 2014 no more.
Nope.
he said that last year.
To see him go there, just kind of, it's just so whack to me. I'm like, it doesn't work. But that's my 2 cents on that move.
All right. Quick thoughts. I do think, for some reason, I think there's another move coming with Chris Paul. Like, I don't know if he finishes the season there. Like, obviously, we haven't even talked about the Suns and the Bradley Beal trade yet. But, Bradley, it feels like when Chris Paul is not the greatest player anymore, but he's still a big name, it feels like when you have a big name, you already have, like, the welcome jersey and things like that. Like, just the way everybody's gone about it in the Warriors organization, like, they're very calculated. Like, Clay was like, yeah, it's going to, like, we're fine. He's a winner. Like, he wins everywhere he goes, but it's going to be weird. Steph was like, yeah, it's kind of weird. Like, it's nice. Chris Paul's a great player, but it's kind of weird. Like, it's just the way they're all going about it, it almost feels as if it's because it's a 1-year deal. It's an expiring contract, so teams who are eager to get someone off the books, they're not going to trade it for this, but like say Nurkic. Like Nurkic has got multiple years on his deal. You could swap that. They'd get Chris Paul, have him for 1 season, and then he's off the books. You got a free $29 million. So a team like that, there's teams out there who you might be able to flip him for, depending on what they want and who's interesting. So I don't know he's there. It just seems like the offseason just seems really weird for someone who like of his like when the Clippers got Westbrook, it felt like it was more welcoming than the Warriors getting Chris Paul. That's my thought on it right now. I don't know if he's actually there all year. If it is, though, basketball-wise, it's going to be interesting to see him, kind of see how much Steph is off ball with him there. Like, is he coming off the bench? How many minutes does he play? Like, how they organize, like how it's run. Because also, he's going to be fresh, too. Like, how much they play him. Like, do they sit him every third game because he is old? So it'll be interesting to see basketball-wise what Steve Kerr does. He's a brilliant mind, so he'll figure out something if he's there. But I think that by the trade deadline, he could be gone. But Kyle, you're good to go.
Yeah, definitely a weird move. I think everybody who's a basketball fan thought that when you see Jordan Poole moved for Chris Paul, after the initial Chris Paul trade, Chris Paul gets traded for Bradley Beal, goes to the Wizards. We all know he's either getting bought out. I think we all assumed he was getting bought out, honestly, instead of traded.
Yeah.
And then next thing we see is Poole, who they signed to an extension last year, traded for Chris Paul, which tells me that they do want him there, So, because you have Jordan Poole as an asset. What?
Or that's
maybe
one
not,
of the
but
two.
it's got to be more than 40. It's got to be more than 40-year-old Chris Paul, I would assume, especially if you could have him on the buyout market. So the fact that they traded Jordan Poole for him, it shows me that they kind of want to go back in the direction of having vets off the bench, a la Iguodala, a la Sean Livingston, those kind of guys that they had in the past. Andrew Bogut, who they had on their team. They really like these seasoned veterans who are, either former stars or had a ton of potential, like Sean Livingston. He was once upon a time a lottery pick. So I think that's where they're going, is these high IQ players off the bench. Chris Paul, I'll be interested to see what the rest of their moves are, because right now their roster seems pretty thin as is. Like Cam said, they would have Wiggins at the 4, Draymond at the 5, and then you got Chris Paul as your 6th man. If you do have Chris Paul though running
Corey
that point
Joe,
guard
though.
off the bench, Corey Joseph.
Yeah, they got Corey Joseph though. Don't you worry. That's a huge move for them.
Yeah, I mean that's an IQ player. That's someone who used to be in the Spurs organization. I forgot he was even still in the league, honestly. So I mean, that kind of seems like where they want to go is these high IQ players, less about athleticism like they had with Wiseman, less about skill with Poole. So I'm interested to see how they fill out their roster, especially at the bigs position. They just lost DiVincenzo as well. So for Joseph to be their DiVincenzo replacement, who I thought was like a perfect Warrior, I think that's someone who's right in the ilk of what Kerr wants as a player, but he just signed a good deal with the Knicks. So yeah, I'm really interested to see how they do as far as wings.
Austin Reeves.
Did he actually?
Yeah,
Final number was bigger than
DiVincenzo.
Reeves.
I'm gonna look. It was right there. It was. Let me look at his contract.
That's
real
interesting.
Quick. It was a 4-year, $50 million deal with the Knicks, and Reeves was 4-year, $56. So it was like right there with Austin Reeves, and I would say Austin Reeves has decent more value than DiVincenzo, even though DiVincenzo in the right system is a very good player for sure.
Yeah,
I mean, they're Villanova
has
up
all-star
right now.
potential. That's I didn't realize they were that close in value as far as their contracts go. But yeah, no, I mean, it seems like the one player they did keep, at least for right now, out of the young guys is Kuminga, who I would think has the most potential. I would assume that means he's going to get big minutes and be right in the thick of things with the rotation. We saw him perform well when Draymond was out towards the end of the season. So, I don't know. They're a weird team to me. They're like right in the middle between... They're like a faux contender to me right now. You know what I mean? Like if you told me they would be contending by the end of the year, I could see it. But if you told me they're going to be kind of where they were last year, obviously not as bad on the road, I don't see that happening again. And I see their chemistry being a lot better because Draymond and Jordan Poole clearly never recovered, especially Jordan Poole. I just don't know. I really do not know what the hell to make of their team at all. They just, like, when I'm picturing them right now, all I can think of is, like, small wings on top of their guards, with Chris Paul, with Steph, with Clay. And, Clay gave us 2 really good months going into the playoffs last year. Maybe, but
I'm just looking at the roster right now.
If that's the case, that's a really poor job in their front office because I think you could have got more for Jordan Poole than Chris Paul. If that's the case, because if you move Jordan Poole just to get Chris Paul and you just want Chris Paul as an asset, then what are you doing? Because Jordan Poole, I would think, is the better asset than Chris Paul. I mean, Chris Paul is someone you want on a championship team, which is what Golden State aspires to be. But if you're going all in and trading your, $23 a year, $1 million player for Chris Paul, I would hope he's part of your plans.
I guess the only thing I can think of is an expiring contract for teams like that for teams that are looking to move off of money. That's all. Because just looking at their roster right now, you've got obviously Steph, you got obviously Clay, Corey Joseph, obviously, and it's more just going to be a veteran guy that might play some minutes. But you still got Moses Moody, you still got Gary Payton II. So, like, right there, that is actually like legitimately 4 guards already. That is a 48 rotation from both spots for just the guards. I mean, Clay can obviously play the 3, but you really have Wiggins already to play the 3, and you've got Kuminga, who's a kind of a combo forward per se. He can play the 3, he can play the 4, depending on the lineup. So, like just it all, to me, it feels one of two things is happening, and I'm not saying what either one is. It's either the Jordan Poole market was much worse than we thought it was going to be in the Chris Paul trade. In the Chris Paul trade, allow like maybe if you trade Chris Paul and Kuminga, you could get like a legitimate piece from there, like at the trade deadline. I don't know, either that, or they have him in his plans, or they very much miscalculated on what they thought that they could get swinging it for Chris Paul. Like, that just feels like one of the 3 options. I don't know what it is yet. We'll see, obviously, when it goes forward, but I don't know. There's the more and more I think about it, the less sense it makes stylistically and the less sense it makes financially, other than just it being an expiring contract after the season. And I don't know, was the pool market that bad to where they couldn't get any? You wouldn't think so, but like,
it could have been.
It could have been if we're talking. If we're talking hero for Dame Lillard, there's no way Jordan Poole's market was that bad.
But the only reason why I think it could have been that bad is because the lead. Not that Jordan Poole is that bad of a player, because I think Jordan Poole and Tyler Hero are pretty even in playing as a players. I think it might be more so the fact that they all knew, like the entire league knew, the Warriors needed to get off of Jordan Poole. But he had 3 years left on his deal.
Maybe.
So it's like you don't have to overpay at all for it. But I mean, I don't know. This is just speculation, obviously.
I don't know if that's the case, because I've heard people on podcasts who were like beat reporters for the Warriors talking about how Jordan Poole was prepping to come back to the Warriors and was blindsided by the trade. So all that doesn't really add up if that's the case.
And money-wise,
I think it's
Chris
just a
Paul's
really weird
not
trade.
Cheaper.
He's not cheaper, but he's on a 1-year deal. That's what that's
I guess, yeah.
Again,
True,
this is all just speculation of like making a guess, because I have zero idea. Obviously, Bob Myers isn't there anymore. Dunleavy's there now, so new management might not be as wise, because obviously Bob Myers is shown to be one of the savviest GMs that we've had in the league. As of late. Obviously, Jerry West has been great. Ainge has been great. Stevens is shown to be well. So like, it just
didn't have the greatest draft history though.
No, like who? The Warriors? Are you saying
Bob Myers? The last few years.
Oh yeah, no. Since Clay, I think he was the last one to arrive. Yeah, his draft history hasn't been the greatest, but again, they hit on Dre, Clay, and Steph. So after that, they're like, you know what? We've got what we need. Let's just build. After that, we'll get everything else. We got our top 10 player of all time, one of the greatest shooters ever, and one of the greatest defensive players ever. We did our job drafting. Let's just put things around them. So in fairness to them, but yeah, no, you're right. In my opinion, should have went with LaMelo over Wiseman, who just signed a massive deal here too, got a big extension.
I want to talk about those types of deals too. There's been
a lot of them. Desmond Bain got a huge deal.
I think they should have traded that.
I want to know which one was your favorite.
I think they should have traded.
I want to know
which one. It was a weak draft.
No, they should have got LaMelo.
LaMelo or traded it. LaMelo or traded it. You're right.
Yeah.
LaMelo or traded it, but I would have gotten LaMelo because I think a 6'8" guard who can dish the ball, who actually can still shoot a bit with Steph would have been perfect. Steph and Clay would have been perfect.
Different.
I think it would have been perfect. But again, if you trade that pick, I think you could have traded it and gotten legitimate assets. Wiseman we thought was going to be cool, but also at the same time he hadn't played much. So he already had that, like, is he going to stay healthy? Like, when he's healthy and actually right, cool, he can probably play, but is he going to be healthy? When you already have that question at the number 2, you can't take a question mark, I guess, but like you can't take a question. I would have taken LaMelo because I don't think there was really much question to be there. I thought that he was going to be at least a great passer. Like we already knew he was going to pass great, and you could have used that in the Warrior system. especially on the break. Him, Steph, and Clay on the break.
Yep.
With Wiggins running? And Kuminga? I don't know. I would have gone LaMelo, but very, very interesting. Yeah. So that was my first question. My second question. Oh, do you have one, sorry, Kamden?
I got a question. Yeah.
Okay, you go first. I got a couple, so you go.
Mm-hmm. So mine is with those rookie extensions. The ones I can think of are all the people getting $207 million with their designated rookie extension.
Yes.
Are LaMelo.
Yep.
Anthony Edwards.
Yep. Desmond Bane.
Tyrese Halliburton and Desmond Bane. Is that right?
Yes. I'll check and see right now. You keep talking. I'll see if there's anything.
I think those are at least the big four.
Yes.
Out of those teams, only the Timberwolves made the play-in. Made the playoffs with the play-in. That's how they got in. And the Grizzlies. The Grizzlies made it too. I'm curious, which one of those people that just signed a 5-year deal, which one in the 5 years has the best run, do you think? Or, sign the best one, sign the best deal? I am an Anthony Edwards guy. I just don't know what he looks like in Minnesota for that long. So, I don't know what that looks like. So, I don't know if that's the best signing. LaMelo, I saw a little thing of him and talking about when he signed it, and he said he wants to win MVP. I low-key believe that, just this much. But low-key believe he's going to go out there and do it. And Tyrese Maxey I like a lot. But, I don't know if they're making the playoffs anytime soon. So my question
you mean
is,
Halliburton?
Which one of those? Yes,
Halliburton.
Tyrese Halliburton, sorry.
Yeah.
Which I love Halliburton. He's a great player.
Yes.
I just don't know what that team looks like yet. I don't know what his role is because he's more of a disher and he's a playmaker in a lot of ways, and they don't have too much there, and they've been talking about trading Buddy Hield and Miles Turner for a decade, I feel.
It really has felt like forever.
Yep. And for the Grizzlies, I honestly don't love that signing because they're going to have to pay Desmond Bane, JJJ, and Ja big money coming up. And Marcus Smart's going to want to be big money someday too. So I don't know how I feel about those.
If they pay all of them, JJJ would be the odd one out unless Ja keeps doing stupid stuff. But if you
Ja got his extension, right?
Did he get a full? Did he get a max?
Correct?
Did he get a max extension? Okay, if he did, then he might have.
Zion did. I would assume Ja did.
Yes. Okay. Yeah, he did. He got 5 years, $197. So essentially, JJJ is actually, and if that's the case, that's pretty much their core going forward. That's because money wise, you can't get a fourth superstar with that.
You can't.
So if that's the case, that's their core, and I wouldn't get rid of JJ. So it is interesting. I feel like they're in a weird position where, with the uncertainty now, kind of ish of Ja Morant. You don't want to let Bane just go, but at the same time, you had to give him a big deal. So it was a little back and forth. And since I'm talking, I think that Anthony Edwards is probably going to be the best deal because I think he's the best player out of all of them right now. You have an asset to trade in Karl Anthony Towns going forward, so I think you can build a. We'll see if Anthony really gets to that point where you can say he can lead a championship team or be there. I think that's in his future. LaMelo, it's going to be interesting to see what new ownership is going to be now. See, because Mike couldn't do anything. He was the exact opposite of his playing career. So it'll be interesting to see if the Brandon Miller was the right play. Obviously it makes sense that they extended LaMelo because they didn't get Scoot. So you have Brandon Miller there. We'll see how that pans out there. Halliburton's going to be interesting too, just because he is there. Indiana, again, as you said, they've been Miles Turner and Buddy Hield have been on the trade block since I was in high school. So they don't really know what's going on there. And then I can't remember the last. Oh, Desmond Bane. We already talked about that. So I think Anthony Edwards is probably the best one. And then I might say honestly LaMelo. Then probably Bane, then Halliburton, all depending. But the Pacers are sneaky. Pacers do sneaky things, and they have a really good coach in Carlisle. So they'll be very interesting to see what they do.
Mathurin is really good, too. I like
so they'll be interesting seeing moving forward what they've got. But, Kyle, you can answer that question now.
I would say the one I have the most questions about out of those four would be LaMelo. LaMelo's the one I do not know the most about when it comes to is he a winning player.
Thanks.
If we're going to compare him directly to Halliburton, I'll say this draft night. What was that draft? Was that the 2020 draft or 2019? I think it was 2020. I think that was the COVID draft. Either way, I remember me and friend of the pod, Esteban Ramos, texting. We each said, like, if we had to bet on one big guard, we'd take Halliburton over LaMelo. And I still think that's true for me to this day. I mean, I think when Halliburton went down this year, I want to say Indiana was like a 4 or 5 or 6 seed. They were somewhere in that range when he went down before his injury. They weirdly have a nice mix of vets and young guys on their roster. You mentioned Benedict Mathurin. You mentioned Miles Turner. They got Rick Carlisle. I really like their squad. I like what they've done with this offseason. So I think if they keep everybody or if they got tradable assets, I think we're looking at a play-in team, if not a playoff team. I mean, for
Bruce Brown
Indiana.
and Obi Toppin. So we'll see what they do.
Yeah. Especially the Bruce Brown signing. That's a Carlisle type of player.
Yep.
It is.
So just in order, LaMelo would be the one I have the most questions about. Keenan brought up here, Cam, you actually weren't on this pod, but Keenan brought up a Desmond Bain, Jaylen Brown trade. I was all for that at the time. Mind you, this was like a week or two after Jaylen Brown had turnover-itis or whatever the fuck that was. But I'm a big Bain fan. I think he's in – I'm not saying he's a Klay Thompson type player, but I think he's in that same ilk as far as where he is in his career on his rookie scale, the level of shooter he is right now. It's Klay Thompson-esque. You know what I mean? I don't think he's ever going to be the microwave that Klay is, where Klay can just go off for 60, but Bain's for sure one of the best young shooters in the league right now. 3-and-D guy who can play make. I would love Bain on my team. I would love Halliburton on my team. And Anthony Edwards, of course. You'd love Anthony Edwards on your team. We've seen him in playoff games. We've seen him scoring in crunch time. My biggest question would be with Anthony Edwards is what the front office does for him. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Even though that team's kind of a mess, and it's well documented what the three of us think of Karl Anthony Towns, given our Keenan's ranking a couple weeks ago. I'm not a big Towns guy at all, which, by the way, I used to like Towns early in his career. I just really don't like how he carries himself and, you know, how he shows up in playoff games. He just doesn't seem like a high IQ player. But that being said, I think if you gave, let's say, Rick Carlisle this same exact Timberwolves team, man, I mean, they almost gave Denver the biggest run for their money out of everybody, really, in the playoffs. You could make that argument. So if you gave, and I'm not saying their coach is a bad coach, but if you gave them like a real true vet coach, I do wonder what that team with Gobert and Towns and Edwards looks like. So my biggest question as a player, just player for player, would be LaMelo. But if you're Charlotte, you obviously have to sign him to that extension. He's your best player.
And the best
he's a fan
player in the
favorite.
last like decade.
You're a small market.
Yep.
Yeah, right. Honestly, you have to sign him. So they did the right thing. But my other question would be, given the T-Wolves history, what does that team look like in 5 years? Do they build the right team around Anthony Edwards? Because I definitely think he's on the right track, and you can see he puts the work in, and he's going to continue to ascend, I would think, barring injury. So my two questions would be the Timberwolves front office and just LaMelo as a player. Is he truly a winning player? This and that. And, I think it's smart money on all four, really. All four contracts are smart money. And especially, I love the Bain and Halliburton contracts, especially.
Yep.
So I think Halliburton right now is a little better than LaMelo. I think LaMelo will end up being a little better than Halliburton.
In the long run,
I do think Halliburton. So I think draft, like you're saying, you're talking draft night, Halliburton or LaMelo. I would take LaMelo, and I do think LaMelo will end up being better. But if you were to tell, on my ranking, I even had it like I think Halliburton is a little bit better right now than LaMelo. I think he's a little bit farther along. Also, LaMelo was a little stunted by injury too, so we'll see. I was gonna say we'll see definitely moving forward if he proves to be one of those great players who is doesn't really contribute to winning well, or if he's going to be one of those players who's great, who can contribute to winning. But it'll be interesting, and we'll see moving forward. So I've either got a question or we can talk about Phoenix because again we're about $1.20 and we haven't even discussed Phoenix.
Hit us with a question. We've had a lot of questions. Hit us with a question and then we can end with Phoenix and then we'll end with probably got more. We'll keep going, Keenan. Hit us with the question.
I was gonna say honestly, I don't have too much to say on Phoenix, even though you would think a lot. This is kind of foreshadowing going into the season. Obviously, there's still a little bit of off season to go, but the majority of the moves have gone. Who do you think is going to be the biggest surprise team this coming season? Like last year, is clearly the Kings. They had pieces off. So like going in mentally, who do you have as the biggest surprise team? It's super easy. I have one too. I feel like me and Cam are going to have the same one for some reason.
We might.
Yep.
OKC. Yep. Hand down.
Yep.
I got them. Yep. Dude, Chet. He's going to go off. He's going to legitimately compete for Rookie of the Year with Wemby. I think so for real. I think our first real look at Chet and Shea, that roster's unreal. Jalen Williams is nice. Josh Giddey. I love Dort. I love that roster a lot, and I could see them running and gunning the same way as
Kings
Sacramento did, and ending up being a 2 seed. Being a 3 seed. I can see that full force. Not even joking. I think Shea is legit.
Chet's going to be in the Rookie of the Year and MVP?
No, Shea will be in MVP talks. Shea will. Okay? Chet will legit. If Chet can put up 25, which I don't know if he can, but if Chet can put up 18 to 20, they got it. If he can do 25, I love Chet. 20, I love his game.
If Chet puts up 25, he's the MVP of the league. Because I'm literally not kidding.
Thunder going to outperform LA. Thunder going to outperform the Lakers and the Clippers, both LA. All right, I give you
yes.
Cam, I give you this. All right, let me get this.
I think their roster is better.
Oh, Cam is here.
Legitimately.
Let me just get this in stone.
Let me just
get this.
Cam is
Let me
here.
just get this in stone, Cam. Let me just get this in stone. I just want to get this. I just want to get this on video, on record, on everything.
Yeah.
All right. I will give you Lakers and Clippers ahead of the Thunder in standings, much like this year, much like past years. Or I can give you the Thunder will finish ahead of both LA teams. Which one are you taking?
Absolute Thunder over LA. Both of them.
Okay.
Is Thunder are the Thunder's going to be the best team? Are going to be better than every California team? So that's involving the Warriors as well and Sacramento.
Sacramento, I don't know. That's the only one I'm a question. Legitimately, the only one I'm a question is.
So
Sacramento.
the Kings 1 seed.
I don't know if
Denver
that's
2
for
seed.
a fact. I don't know if that's a fact. It's tough.
And then the Thunder.
Can I put the Thunder to 3? I'll give them a 3 seed. A 3 seed. Okay. But they are better than both LA teams, and they'll finish with a better rank,
Holy shit.
in the West. Hot take.
All right, okay. I love it.
That's a scorching take.
This is why we have a podcast. So I think that
That's why we pay Cam the big bucks.
This is why we pay Cam the big bucks. I think that the Thunder are going to be the biggest surprise team for me. That was going to be the team for it. Do I think that they're going to be the 3 seed? I can calm down on that because I do like Chet. I think two-hand block Chet, or as Kevin Wildes has been calling him, Chet McHolmgren, which has been hilarious to me. But I do like Chet. I think he's going to, I think Chet can play. He's going to be a great defensive asset. Offensively, 25. He'll get half of that, but he'll probably average about 12, 8 in like 2 blocks, which is cool. Which is a good rookie season. Don't get me wrong. I think he's going to be an impact player. I just don't think he's going to be. I don't think he's going to come out and be Shaquille O'Neal or Kareem or Hakeem or Pat Ewing. I don't think he's going to be these guys coming out. But I do like what the Thunder are doing. I definitely think they are a playoff team for sure. They probably will get past the play-in. I think they could be within that top 6 roughly. But I think they'll be competing because there are a lot of good teams in the West. But I think they have the ability to be within that top 6 coming into the season. All depending on how Chet grows. But Kyle, you can go.
First of all, I want to say, like, we paid Cam big money to, come in with these takes. I better be getting a Supermax extension, being in this goddamn studio. I'm sweating like I'm in a goddamn
So
NBA
hot.
game right now. It's fucking hot as shit in here. But I just want to respond to you guys. I don't really consider OKC a surprise team at all. If anything, I think they were the surprise team this year, given that Chet went down and that they were still a play-in team, and given how SGA ascended. I think they were more of a surprise this year, whereas most people are going to pick them to make the playoffs next year, which I would be on board with y'all. Chet, I have questions about Chet. I mean, he's definitely got game. Don't get me wrong, but he took one shoulder from LeBron and he was out for the season. That was it for him. So,
that was the only shoulder he needed. That was the only shoulder he needed. He got back. He was like, okay, I'm not ready for the league this year. I'm going to make sure I'm out, put some weight back on. He did gain weight. But, no, you're right. He may take 2 shoulders.
His game looks good. His game looks good. He doesn't look much bigger. I'm sure he is. I'm sure he did put on weight, but he still looks scrawny. But he does have a ton of game. He's got a ton of skill. I don't know. It's never good when your number one guy or your top draft pick gets hurt that early. But then again, we've seen it with Embiid, and Embiid's turned out okay. But it's never a good sign. So my questions, like Blake Griffin, my questions with Chet are completely health-based. My real answer for this, the question you asked, this extremely early answer would be the Orlando Magic. I think the Magic creep up on people this year. I think they got a lot of talent. I think they could have done more with their draft, given that they had 6 and 11. I would have liked them to have traded that for a piece, some sort of piece.
Yep.
But I love the way Markelle Fultz has been playing. He's looking like the prospect he once was before the weird yips he had with his foul shot. On top of that, you got Cole Anthony, Suggs. You got a lot of depth at that guard position. You obviously got Paolo Banchero. You got Franz Wagner. You got a lot of young talent in Orlando, and they play well together. They play hard. They play hungry. Excuse me. I think that'll come to fruition this year, especially with the way Fultz is ascending and how he's really coming into his own. My other answer for this, though, like the Orlando's my real answer, the Orlando Magic, my soft answer would be the San Antonio Spurs with Wemby.
Of course.
Potentially a generational player. They already had good talent. You know what I mean? Their young guys over there are already good. I'm not really sure how they complement Wemby. And I thought they were going to do more in free agency. I thought they would be like a Grant Williams suitor. I thought they'd go after players like maybe Austin Reeves or Chris Paul even. Yeah, that would have been a great pickup for them. So I think Wemby, I think he will be, and we'll talk about this more the closer we get to the season, but I would not be surprised to see Wemby be like a 21 points per game type player, 8 rebounds with 2 to 4 blocks. I think he's going to be stupid defensively. Same thing with him, though, with Chet. Can Wemby stay healthy? He's already done preemptive conditioning, I guess you'd call it, against that because, players with his type of height, like we've seen with Porzingus, hasn't been able to stay healthy because of his height, largely, in his NBA career. So I have those questions about Wemby, less so than Chet because, again, Chet took one shoulder from LeBron, done for the season. So who knows if he's a Summer League legend and just that's it. But no, for real, I think Chet's okay. But I think Wemby will be an impact guy, and I think the Spurs will be better than expected. Will they be a full-out surprise team? That's yet to be seen. I want to see the rest of their moves, but I have high expectations for Wemby.
I got another team, but Cam, do you have another team too?
I got one more.
You go.
Okay?
Go ahead.
The Pistons.
Ooh.
I think the Pistons can make the playoffs if Cade plays all year. They got Monty to be their coach. I'm really excited to see what Monty Williams does with them. And I really like Asar Thompson, who they drafted. He's not as good as his brother, Amen, but I really like him a lot. Both those dudes were monsters.
Yep.
I'm actually pretty pumped to see what these guys got with when they got Durant. They got a bunch of young pieces over there, and I think Monty Williams can unlock that team. I truly do. So I'm actually pretty excited to see them. I think they'll be a playoff team as well.
Okay. And the last one that I have is I actually think that the Hornets could be an interesting team this year. So they've got Miles Bridges coming back. Obviously, you have LaMelo, you got Brandon Miller, you got Kelly Oubre. You got Cody Martin, maybe seeing what his brother did in these playoffs. You're like, okay, let me go step up. Dennis Smith Jr. showed some promise last year. Like, obviously, him as a 10th grader was like one of the craziest athletes I've ever seen as a 10th grader. It feels like he hasn't even grown since then, like height-wise. Like, he was just a man amongst boys.
I don't think he's even grown in his game, dude.
Like, he might have, like, peaked at 10th grade, but... he definitely showed some signs of being a viable, like, actual player in a rotation last year. PJ Washington works well with LaMelo just because he's a good pick and roll guy. But I think that if LaMelo is what I think he can be and what his potential says he can be, then I think that they could actually definitely make a run. I mean, 2 years ago they were in the play-in. They lost in the play-in, but 2 years ago they were in the play-in. I think that they could be in that playoff kind of 7th, 6th seed at best, and see where it goes from there. And this also comes down to is Brandon Miller going to be what his number 2 overall pick should say he's going to be. So I think the Hornets definitely could be another team that could sneak up on you just because LaMelo and Brandon Miller show to be a pretty good tandem in the league.
Sure.
I do want to point out 2 of your reasons were Dennis Smith in 10th grade and Cody Martin seeing his brother play and ball out.
Well, it wasn't actually
greatest reasons.
Well, I mean, Dennis Smith Jr. in 10th grade wasn't actually my reason. I just said he was one of the most athletic 10th graders I've ever seen. That was just more of a
I will
point.
say this, though.
And Cody Martin played well last year. It's just obviously Caleb. It's just basically seeing, I don't know. I feel like there's a brother rivalry. I feel like if you were doing well playing basketball, I would want to get in the gym and I would want to be better than you. That's just a me thing, I guess.
Let me just say real quick, I don't think Dennis Smith is on that team anymore. Didn't he move?
That I didn't see that. I just looked at his roster. I just looked at the roster and he said he was there.
He up and moved from Charlotte.
I almost think he's a net. I think he's on the Nets.
That actually sounds somewhat familiar.
I think I saw Woj do that the other day.
Then he might have. Then they haven't updated it on ESPN because I was just looking.
Okay.
No, they haven't updated it. He is a Brooklyn Net. So, hate you, Dennis Smith Jr. Never mind. Your 10th grade athletic star can go to Brooklyn and do your thing there with Mikal. But what'd you get an update of, Kyle?
For some reason, I just got an update from ESPN about a benches clearing brawl in a AAA game. So it must have been pretty insane for like ESPN to update about that.
That's crazy.
But that gives me an excuse to turn this basketball podcast into my new favorite athlete who I've been monitoring for some time. Los Angeles Angels great. Can't pronounce his first name off the top of my head, but Ohtani. Shohei is like my favorite athlete right now. Shohei Ohtani, my favorite athlete right now. Hopefully he gets traded somewhere that's not the Angels. If not, I will be relocated to Anaheim. And
he won't be traded.
He won't be Tom Brady.
He won't be traded.
He won't be traded, but
probably
a free agent option.
No, I was gonna say he's a free agent this season. He's going to probably. I was gonna say he's gonna be a free agent after this season. He's probably gonna command $500 million from a team because he might not. He's probably a top 2, top 3 hitter in the league, up there with Aaron Judge, Mike Trout, and then he's a top. And then I was gonna say he's hitter wise, he's like top 2. He's a top 1 player, but he's a top 2-ish hitter. And then if you say so, and then he is probably about a top 7-ish pitcher right now. Like he's looking to go. Probably 300, maybe 50 home runs with throwing 200 Ks this season. Guy's stupid.
He can make the real argument. Yep, he can make the real argument like Lev Bell did when he's like, "I'm a wide receiver and a running back. Pay me." That dude could actually make the argument and get paid big money.
No, he's looking $500
My prediction is that Ohtani. My prediction is that Ohtani gets $800 million in free agency.
It's going to be stupid. It's going to be the biggest contract we've ever seen.
I think that
I bet you it's
too much, but that's okay.
Nope. I think that's real. Baseball,
because they're saying the ballpark's 5 or 6. They're saying the ballpark's 500 to 600 million, and I think it'll go just slightly above that, and he'll just get the straight 800. That's my prediction.
Slightly above it.
800
That's
million.
25. That's 25.
When you're paying
over slightly.
when you're already paying 500 million, what's another 200 mil? Nothing.
That's like. Okay, so if you paid, that's like paying 30,000 for a car. What is paying 70,000 for a car? Like, what do you mean?
If you're a billionaire owner, it's chump change. That little 200 mil. Go ahead, Ohtani. You're gonna lead me to a World Series. Go ahead and take that extra 200 mil.
I was gonna say. I mean, if he leads you to a World Series, I mean, we've seen before Shohei, the greatest player of our generation, and Mike Trout. Hasn't done anything. So we'll see if he leads him, just because obviously baseball is what baseball is, and we'll see where he goes. I could see him staying West Coast. I also could see...
He's going to be a Dodger.
He could be a Dodger. He could be in the Mets. I think he might stay West Coast, obviously, because of... I think it might be more comfortable for him because of all of the Asian descent over there. I was talking with Nate E. about this today at work. I'm my baseball guy, so I was bouncing back and forth with this literally today.
I think it's either Dodgers, he stays in Anaheim, or he's a Met. One of the three.
I can't see him staying in Anaheim, but if he does, he does. Yeah. Cool for him because they've had and hopefully they do something. I mean, Trout's out for 4 to 8 weeks. That's fair enough because obviously with him being a foreign player, you grow comfortable somewhere, and obviously, as I said, California has such a high Asian influence. So that possibly could be where he feels more comfortable than somewhere else. But Kamden, you're good to go.
Yeah, I love Shohei. I think he'll be in. I'm almost positive he'll be in LA. Almost positive. Love to see him in a Red Sox jersey though. That'd be a move. I'd be going to his games.
Yeah, no, that would be wild. Yeah. Being an ace plus being a 4 hitter. No, it's crazy.
Yep.
He's legitimately crazy. Like, and it's great to see. Like, the only thing you could probably ever get close to, maybe, is like, I mean, it begs the question: do you think like an NFL player could do this at the highest level? And it'd have to be a wide receiver corner, because obviously in basketball you play both sides, so like obviously it's just basketball. But so it'd be wide receiver corner, and could that happen? Yes. So, like, you could possibly see... I mean, obviously, we saw Bo Jackson end up playing 2 sports. Deion did play a little bit of wide receiver, but he didn't play much wide receiver. He was more of just a return guy, and plus being the best corner of all time. So, you might see, like, a true dual threat when it comes to that in the NFL someday. But it's going to be interesting now if Shohei, kind of like Jokic, where it's like a unicorn guy, like this 6'11" guy can just... and most efficient guy, will see with that kind of like everything. It'll be interesting if Shohei will start to breed some of those unicorns in the sense of, because obviously Babe Ruth did it back in the day, but not many people have actually done it. But this is more baseball than I thought we were ever going to talk on the pod, so I like it. It's pretty interesting.
I meant to bring it up earlier too. I meant to lead the show with it, but
we could have led the show.
Lead off with baseball. Yeah.
I'm good with it. I've been learning more and more about baseball, talking with my guys about it. I got my guys to give me information, so it's okay. I haven't paid real attention to baseball since like 2008, but yeah, home run derby soon. I'm gonna bring it up now. So, how do we feel about Bradley Beal to the Suns?
You know what? It more or less feels like a lateral move. Not because he's any worse than Chris Paul. He's obviously probably a better player than Chris Paul. But are they going to get stops? I don't know. They seem to have a lot of guards and guard depth on their team. I think Beal will complement Booker and KD well. Like, I think he'll be a great spot-up shooter. I think his three-point attempts will increase. And I think he'll figure it out. Like, I don't think that'll be a problem. You know, if anything, we've seen it with KD where he'll even take a step back and he'll become the playmaker if need be. I think similar to what I said about the Warriors, I think this is a weird team. They're obviously a contending team. They still have DeAndre Ayton.
Yeah.
I don't know. I'm not a big Ayton guy. I think he's the weak link out of their core four.
Yep.
But, you know, if you're going to trade him, you're going to need to get another quality big back. I mean, shit, who else? They just lost Torrey Craig. I know they signed Eric Gordon. What else were their offseason moves? Drawing a blank here.
Give me 1 second. I can go through it. Obviously, they traded
Utah.
Utah.
They did get Utah. I do like that one. I like that one.
They got Gordon, too. I remember Gordon.
Yeah, they got Eric Gordon, Drew Ebanks, Damian Lee, Chimizi, Metu, Josh Okogie, and then Keita Bates-Diop. Yeah.
Diop, yep.
So, like, that's been all of their moves. All of these guys on 1 or 2 year cheaper deals. You can keep going
team.
on.
It's very top end. I think they'll win a fair amount of games. I think they'll still be a top 5 seed. Where does that get you in the postseason, though, with this team that, in theory, can play defense, but, like, can they? You know what I mean? Like, the Los Angeles Lakers, I know they're going to play defense. The Clippers, when they're healthy, I know they can play defense. The Nuggets, I know they can play defense. Can this Suns team get stops when it matters? That was their problem last year, and I don't think they necessarily addressed it. And you're going to have DeAndre Ayton not getting nearly the amount of touches he wants at this point in his career. He already was feeling that way. Then you go and add Bradley Beal. When Chris Paul very much complimented Ayton well, I don't see any of that going well. And then you got another vet coach in Frank Vogel in place of Monty. Monty and Ayton clearly didn't get along. I just don't see. I don't necessarily think it was the right move. I don't think it was the right move at all. Monty did great things in Phoenix. Man, I don't know. I don't see the Ayton situation ending well. And, you know, if they happen to trade him for someone like Jared Allen, and then you also get a 3-and-D guy in return somehow, I don't know how, then,
the Pacers makes the most
my stance
sense.
might change.
You trade him for Miles. The Indiana Pacers makes the most sense. Obviously, the Pacers were linked to getting Ayton prior. I would trade him for Miles. If you can try to swing Miles Turner and Buddy Hield, cool, because obviously that's that. But if you only have to get Miles Turner and whomever you can get else with that as kind of like a second guy, that would be probably
They've
the
got
best
like 3
move
different iterations of Buddy Hield on their team already.
Yeah, no, I know. I'm saying, like, if you could get Buddy Hield and like James
I could
Johnson
see him doing it too,
or something like that.
Right.
I could see him just doing it.
Anyway too.
Yep.
They seem to want as many 2 guards on their team as possible.
Yeah.
Kamden, you go before I go.
For me, it's just like it's almost, and to me, the same way that I feel about the Celtics not having a true point guard facilitating things. And this team is different because, like, it's KD, it's Devin Booker, but like they're all 3 of those big guys, KD, Devin Booker, and Beal, all do their best work when they got the ball in their hands. So I think it's going to be interesting to see what that looks like. And whenever we see teams make stars mesh, if you think back to the Heat with LeBron, Bosh, and Wade, you think about the Celtics, which I think the Celtics' big 3 was different because Rondo was already there, and that all kind of worked out. But it takes time. It takes a year in a lot of ways before you actually get that championship run. So I do not see a title run in their future this year. And with that in mind, I think that our boy Kevin Durant was going to be quite upset with not going to the title again and probably wanting to move out again. I really just don't know what that team looks like. I could see them being 500, 25-25, and saying, what is our best option right now? And being 30-30 and saying, what are we going to do right now? Because I don't see the defense, and I don't see these types of players, including Beal and Kevin Durant, playing 82 games. They're not going to. And if they're not playing 82 games, who is going to play for them? I don't want what's his name Wemby. What's his name Wemby? Something.
Watanabe or something like that.
Wanatabe.
If he's starting 20 games for you because Kevin Durant's out those 20 games, I do not like that team. So that's just me.
To be fair, Utah's lights out. He's a lights out shooter.
He is. He's a good player.
He showed some things. He showed some things in Brooklyn.
So I don't really care for the move at all. I think that the problem with them last year was they didn't have a point guard, and then they went and got Bradley Beal. Well, I mean, the problem was also they didn't have any depth or defense at times. But like, I just feel they don't have a guy. Like Devin Booker can handle the ball and cool. Kevin Durant can't handle the ball, cool. Bradley Beal can't handle the ball, cool. But I don't want them being the primary decision makers. As you said with Boston, Jason Tatum can handle the ball, cool. Jaylen Brown can sometimes dribble the ball. But I don't want them to be or Marcus Smart. I don't want them as your primary every single game decision makers, for me personally. If you told me one of two scenarios, they got bounced in the first round or they won the championship, I would lean towards they bounced in the first round. I don't see this team. Mm-hmm. I don't see them, unless they trade Ayton for something special. I just think that they don't mesh. Like when KD went to the Warriors, you're like, okay, 73-9 team. You just plug and play Kevin Durant there. You already have a beautiful system that's going to work. You have... Like, if you're going back to the Heat, you have LeBron, Wade, Bosh. Okay, so you have a big guy, you have a guard, and then you have LeBron, who obviously is a scorer. He clearly broke the scoring record, but he loves to pass. They'll make it work, especially because you have that kind of guy.
Yep.
The Celtics.
And that one's more relatable, I would say, because they had to start people like Mario Chalmers.
It is the most
Birdman.
It is the most relatable, but you already had a champ. I mean, you have a champion in Durant, so you have a champion in Wade. So I mean, yes, that's the most relatable. But at the same time, LeBron truly can be a point guard. Like Devin Booker can fake be a point guard. Not that he's a bad player at all, but he can play make. But I just don't want him as a primary point guard all season. I would want LeBron as that. Obviously, I wouldn't thinking big threes. You've got, as you mentioned, KG, Paul Pierce, and Ray Allen. They fit seamlessly. KG was like, okay,
because of Rondo.
Yeah, they fit. They already had a point guard in Rondo. KG's like, I'll take a step back. Shooting wise. I'll just go in defensive player of the year. Obviously, you still have Paul Pierce in the same role. Ray Allen's like, okay, I'm just gonna spot up a little bit more. If I need to do off the dribble, I can get 20 points a game. So it's just. When you look at all of these situations, they fit better in Brooklyn with Kyrie, James Harden, and Kevin Durant, and that didn't work.
Yeah.
So, I mean, obviously that didn't work because of injury, but this team could not work because of injury. Kevin Durant's perpetually been injured ever since his Achilles injury, and Bradley Beal hasn't played a full season. And then this is your team. Going forward, these are three of the top 7 salaries in the league going forward. You can't, I mean, obviously you can trade, and it's going to be hard to trade them because I think with the new rules that they have, it's really going to be hard to move off of them.
It is.
This is your collective. So it's okay, I guess. If you're going to, if they make it work, kudos to them. I'm wrong. I'll be the first to admit that I'm wrong. Fine, KD broke through. He got another one. Devin Booker played great, whatever. But I just don't see it. I don't like the construction of the roster at all. I don't look at it and I'm like, okay, that team's going to instantly be the Nuggets I think the Nuggets are better than them. The Lakers are better than them. Depending on the couple moves that they make, the Warriors could be better than them. I'd probably have the Suns over the Warriors now just because the Warriors roster makes no sense with Chris Paul. But there are teams right now that I'd be like, yeah, I'm taking them over, and the Bucks and the Celtics, I'm taking over them. And if the Heat get Lillard, the Heat are better than them too.
Yeah, I have a question.
Yeah.
Actually, about this real quick.
Yes.
I feel like number one, the Wizards prematurely traded Beal for not a great deal, in a lot of ways. Two, if you were the Suns and you could get Jordan Clarkson instead. I low-key think that's a better fit for a little less money / Jordan Poole could run some sort of weird point thing.
Did you say Poole or do you mean Poole or Clarkson?
Jordan Poole.
Okay,
if instead of doing the 3-way team thing with Chris Paul, they just did it 1v1. So Chris Paul's going to the Warriors, Jordan Poole to the Suns. They have a little extra money that way. Jordan Poole could run that role. I think that's a better fit than Bradley Beal in a lot of ways. And I don't know. I think it's interesting. I would have waited in a lot of ways to make some moves and figure out what's going on, to be totally honest. Because I could have also seen I don't know, Chris Paul and DeAndre Ayton with a bunch of picks for Damian Lillard. And Damian Lillard would have been happy to do that and go to the Suns. So, I don't know. I think it's all interesting. I just hate the trade, and I think it was premature in a lot of ways.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, no, I agree with what you said. I agree with what you said about it being premature. It's funny on the Wizards' end because the Wizards should have traded Bradley Beal last year and tanked this year and been in the Wemby sweepstakes. They decided to trade him this year. That just seems like the Wizards. It's a Wizards thing to do. But no, I agree with you. Yep. I feel like the Suns, had they just held on to Chris Paul a little longer, I guess there was a bit of a timetable with how his contract worked that he needed to be traded. But yeah, man, I mean, Chris Paul and Ayton would have gave you some flexibility. And on top of that, people for years wanted, I mean, it was obvious the Suns' biggest weakness was them not having a backup point guard. They had Campaign backing up Chris Paul. And then this year they say, well, fuck it, we're trading Chris Paul too. Now we don't even have a backup or a starting point guard, really. That team's a mess. It's a mess in a way. Like I said, I think they're going to win a lot of regular season games. I do. I don't think they'll do anything in the postseason. And, you know, people have been making the joke the last couple of years how the Houston Rockets are basically an AAU team because they let Jalen Green, and who's the other guy, lefty there, Kevin Porter Jr. They let them kind of just do what they want. So, yeah. People let them, the coaches there been letting them do what they want, so it comes off as an AAU team. This Suns team now reminds me of an AAU team because you just got scorers out there with some wings, some shooters, and then you got DeAndre Ayton. Like, you just got that one big guy and a bunch of wings, a bunch of guards, and a bunch of ISO dudes. It's just a weird mix. It's a hell of a weird mix. And who knows? Like, I would assume, like I said, Ayton gets traded. But I don't know. I don't know what the moves are for this team. Go ahead, Keith. I was
going to say, honestly, just like quick thoughts right now. I would have felt better about them if they would have traded Chris Paul, would have gotten maybe some sort of nice wing veteran that they probably could have traded for Chris Paul. You got Miles Turner and James Johnson for DeAndre Ayton, signed Gabe Vincent. I would feel much better about this roster.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, and then you sign. I mean, obviously with that, you still have some leftover. You have some leftover money. You sign a backup point guard. You sign a backup point guard, or try to get someone, not this guy specifically because he's on the Timberwolves, but Mike Conley-esque, a smart guy who can come in, run the show for about 20 minutes. You make it work from there. That's what I would have done if I'm the Suns, because clearly, why didn't you win last year? You guys didn't have point guard play. You guys couldn't play defense. You guys didn't have enough people and bodies. So we're going to trade more not having bodies. We're not going to have point guard play. We're not going to better our defense. We're just going to get more offense and be like, hey, as Kyle said, AAU team, we're just going to score more than you guys. And when Denver is putting up efficient points with them and then plus going to get defensive stops, or the Lakers are going to slow the game down plus get some defensive stops, what are you going to do? And when KD misses 25 games and Bradley Beal misses 25 games and your starting five is going to look like Damian Lee, DeAndre Ayton, Devin Booker, Josh Okogie, and Yuta. Okay, figure it out. And you have Frank Vogel, not Monty? Okay, cool. Figure it out. God, I'm glad I got to talk about that. I don't really care about this. Yeah. I don't really care about that. Okay, and that's pretty much it. I have one more random question that I was just thinking about. It's a question that can be asked in like 3 months, though, so I can hold off on it. It's no big deal.
All right.
But ask real quick.
Otherwise,
I got a closeout question.
Okay, you got a closeout question?
All right.
I was just kind of going through the league and kind of just sifting. Who would benefit the most off of an MVP? I know we always talk about off a championship. Like, obviously, Joel Embiid, I think, or James Harden would be the most off a championship, or KD even. But what player in the league would benefit the most off of winning MVP this coming season?
Luka.
Facts.
Okay.
I would say just Jason Tatum's one. I think he needs one.
Okay. So you have Luka, you have
And if
Jason
we're being literal,
Tatum.
literal,
Yeah.
if we're being literal, someone who would it would be an insane story, especially after the last few months, it would be Ja Morant.
That was another one that I was going to mention, Ja. All right, let me go look at my list real quick.
Which, by the way, I
those are
think
names.
his suspension's a little heavy, but I get why it is heavy.
Yeah. I do think I'm going to name one more guy. I'm going to name two guys that would be super interesting if they got one. One would be Jimmy Butler. I think if Jimmy were to win an MVP, that could really just like almost solidify a Hall of Fame kind of thing, because you'd really end up being like, okay, he's not just playoff Jimmy, he's showing it in the regular season too. That's one. And two, Anthony Davis. I think if he was to win an MVP, you would really see like, oh, okay, he has taken the team from LeBron, and LeBron can start fading into that second, if not even third option at times, obviously, if Austin Reeves progresses as we do. But I do agree with you guys. Luka, Jason Tatum, and Ja would be the three that I think would be the most beneficial for. I just think those two would be interesting if I was just giving out a couple others.
Kevin Durant getting an MVP would be interesting too.
Kevin Durant would be interesting.
Adding another one to his
that would be
resume.
huge for him, I think.
Obviously,
That'd be huge for his resume.
yeah, that would be. Obviously, a lot of the younger guys like Trae Young or people like that would obviously be cool too.
Yep.
Steph is interesting.
And you mentioned it.
because he'd have
Green.
You
three.
mentioned it. I was just gonna say Damian Lillard, if he goes to the Miami Heat and that works out and he rocks it, if he gets an MVP and they run it, that'd be kind of dope.
No, that'd be super. I was gonna say, and then obviously, I don't think it'd happen. LeBron, if he won one, that'd be cool. If he got to 5 and tied Mike for there, and then Steph, if he got to 3, he really then gets into that even more in the Bird conversation there. So like those are two people who would be interesting historically, but I don't think he benefits more than say Jason Tatum or them. Like Curry and LeBron are made men. So, all right, Kyle, what was your closeout question?
Facts. So my question to y'all is, well, let me present this. Tonight is the UFC Hall of Fame inductions. It's a big week for the UFC. It's International Fight Week. UFC 290 is Saturday night, and every July, I guess it would be the first week of July, they do their Hall of Fame inductions. Reason why this is relevant, they do something different that they don't do in any other league or major Hall of Fame, which is they will induct, I think they induct one fight a year. I don't know if it's multiple fights, but for sure at least one fight a year they induct in the Hall of Fame. So my question for y'all is, if you were to induct a basketball game, and I'll limit it to the last 5 years, so from the season of 2018 to this past season, regular season or playoffs, finals, whatever you guys want, give me one game y'all would induct into the Hall of Fame.
Damn, you already stole I was going to say Game 7, 2016, but you said 5 years. That was instantly
Yeah, I had to
already...
eliminate the obvious ones.
Can I give you like 3 like nominations? Like off the top of my head right now, there's probably more games.
Depends, because I don't want you to take Cams or anything.
Okay, no, okay, you guys go first. You go first, and then I'll have my 3 nominations.
Think about it.
Because I've got 3 nominations right now that I would have.
And you know what? If you want to go to the last, I can open it up to the last 10 years. It doesn't have to be the last 5 years.
So
Because that does limit it a
2013.
little bit.
Well, it would either be
Sure.
Game 7 of the NBA Finals in 2016 or Game 6 against the Spurs would be, if you're going back that far. It would have to be one of those two. In my personal opinion, if you want to go regular season, I think it would have to be Warriors and Thunder where Steph hit that game winner. I think that's probably the best regular season game I can remember. Like if you're going out like that far back,
it could be any.
Obviously it can be that. I'm gonna say one right now, and then we can talk about a couple others. I think Game 6, 2020 Finals, Giannis is 50. I think that's that's an underrated all-time legend. Dropping 50 and 12 in a Finals, I think is all-time. Like Giannis had.
It's somehow already underrated. You're right.
Yeah, no, it's underrated. Like, no one talks about his 50-piece in a finals game to close out a team.
Elimination.
No, I mean, and I was gonna say that those finals seem to not be talked about as much as they should be because I mean, Giannis obviously had the block. He had the block, and then he had the alley-oop in Game 5. He had the blocking in Game 3. Like, and that was him coming off of an injury the previous series. He played Game 1, he was and then after that, he was phenomenal. So, like, I mean, I think that finals doesn't even get talked about enough. That went 6. That was obviously people were really happy about Chris Paul getting at least 2 finals. But offhand, I would say that Game 6 would be the first one. I had another one, but I'll let you guys say before I get to other ones.
Cam, you got one?
I'm trying to think. I would say the Toronto versus the Sixers with Kawhi's game winner, I think was a huge game.
It's a great one.
I loved that game. It was super fun to watch. The intensity was unreal. I would say that another game would be the... I'm trying to think. Was the Steph Curry in the Warriors versus the Thunder regular season game where Steph Curry hit that wild
26? That was 2016.
Mm-hmm.
That was their 73
Does that count for this? Would this count for this?
We'll count it.
Or no?
We'll count it. We'll open it up.
Is that too far?
I tried to make it.
That game was unreal. If that's my.
I tried to make it 5 years so I wouldn't have people.
Okay.
No, yeah, that definitely works.
Okay.
That's a classic. That's like the most insane regular season moment of my lifetime, possibly.
I would agree.
I called
So that's
Kyle
what
and
came
said
to
that
mind.
Steph was better than Mike, and then took it back 1 second after. But for 1 second, I said that
I've
Steph
never
was
seen
better
an
than
NBA
Mike.
Twitter light up. You would have thought Steph
No.
won the fucking ring with that shot. The way NBA Twitter lit up, like even players were chiming in, like this fucking guy. No, that was crazy. That's definitely that's got to be in there.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
All right, I'm gonna give y'all 2.
Yep, go with your
I'm
2.
gonna give y'all 2 as well. One of the last 5 years, I'll give you Game 1 of the 2018 Finals. LeBron going toe to toe with the Monstars, the Warriors. Did everything he possibly could to win that game. And then J.R. Smith living up to like all the negative J.R. Smith stereotypes and actually doing something ridiculously stupid at the end of the game. I will never forget that game as long as I live. I'll never forget LeBron. In OT, he had this moment where like Steph went up for a layup and he went to block it. And Steph, for some reason, got pissed about it. And then it was LeBron, Steph, and Clay talking shit. And then it ended up in Draymond and Tristan Thompson getting a little scuffle or some shit about it. That's just a super memorable game. One of LeBron's best games ever that got ruined by my boy J.R. Smith. And then the other one, this is one of my favorite games of all time, would be Game 6, Warriors Thunder 2016, the Klay Thompson game. That's one of the most insane games I've ever seen.
Did you lose him too?
Klay, like ridiculous fire in that game. Like I've never seen someone so clutch without like it being necessarily in the clutch moments. Like so many times they were down 7 to 10 points and they needed a bucket, and Klay would just have a ridiculous 3. And then before you know it, Klay was just lighting everybody up. Before you knew it, Russell Westbrook and Kevin Durant are crumbling before your eyes. Before you know it, Steph's closing out the game. That was a wild one. That was a wild one because everyone was for sure like, oh, the Warriors ain't going to win this game. And it really didn't look like it for a little bit. Like the Thunder had control of that game. And then, you know, before you knew it, Klay and the Warriors took that shit back. And the rest is literally history. You get KD on the Warriors literally because of that game, honestly. So that's one of my favorite games of the last 10 years ever.
That's 10 years. Okay, so Kyle, fun fact, we heard nothing you said until that last sentence. Didn't need to hear anything because you said Klay Thompson went crazy against the Thunder. I know exactly what you're talking about.
Now we're all froze.
Steph had an underrated 31, 10, and 9 in that game, even because Klay literally went Game 6, Klay put up 41 with 11 threes, and then Game 7, Steph puts up 37. Klay has like 8 threes, and they go on to win. All right, my other one that I was going to say was Warriors-Celtics Game 4, because I feel like obviously Steph was solidified, but I feel like everybody has that moment that solidifies your greatness when you are great, and I feel like that moment, because obviously people made buzz of the Finals MVP for Steph, blah, blah, blah. And I think that 43, he did every single thing he needed to do. He had big clutch shots in the fourth quarter. Third quarter, he was amazing. First half, he kept him in it. He was incredible that entire night. And I believe that was his shining, like his moment. Like he's had opportunities, but that was his moment. And we've lost Kyle. There's no more.
Lost him.
There's no more Kyle. He's just gone. Oh, man. All right. Kyle apparently lost connection. Should we wait or end it? Because, I mean, we could just end it and just say, Kyle.
We could.
So what's this? Because I heard 0. And I mean 0.
I said to you, I was like, did we lose him?
Is he talking? Because he literally was saying 0 words, and then all of a sudden I hear Klay Thompson, one of the greatest performances. I was like, that's all I needed. All I needed to hear was Klay Thompson, greatest performance. I just knew you were going off about Klay and his 41. Yeah, no, that was... I'm gonna give him like 2 more minutes, and if not, it's been 2 hours. We can just say,
this one.
"Oh, hey, hey."
Yeah. Did you get him?
He's looking like he wants to try to come back.
Back.
I'm back for a sec.
Okay, so no, but yes. So it's recorded, so other people who are listening are gonna hear it. We heard absolutely nothing until you said, Klay Thompson, amazing game. That was it, and that was all we needed to know. We knew we were talking Game 6 Klay. So we got it, but...
Well, as long as you guys were nodding along accordingly, you guys will see it on YouTube and such, so I'm cool with it.
I already
Cam,
did
you got one more for us?
game, didn't I?
You did.
A bonus one.
You got a bonus one? One more before we sign out?
I will go with... Damian Lillard's bye-bye. Yep. Over Paul George. What a shot. What a close game. Important time. I loved that one. So that'd be my other one. I don't remember what year that was, to be honest. But
same postseason as the Kawhi and Embiid.
They got to the conference finals. That was when I thought they should have got rid of McCollum. They got as far as they possibly got with that team. They got swept by the Warriors. And then, So there was a lot of that playoff run had a lot of great moments. That had obviously KD was going crazy early. Then Steph had the 0-point first half, 33 second half. Kawhi was great that entire playoff run. Game 6 of the finals was crazy too, because Klay had 30 in the late third, and then he got injured, and then Fred VanVleet became big shot Fred VanVleet in the fourth, and he went nuts. And then Curry missed the big 3 late. Game 5 was a classic too, because Steph had a big shot late in that game too. They went back and forth. Game 6 was also semi-classic because Steph did miss the shot, and then Draymond tried to call a timeout. They had no timeouts left, and then that was the one they won. I rewatched that game, deep highlights, 2-3 months ago, because I actually did it for a class. It was splicing up the game, and then I got to do a voiceover for the class. So I actually watched that game again. Boogie Cousins had big shots down the stretch. So I'll let you know anything. Boogie Cousins is getting actual pivotal finals minutes.
Yeah.
Shouts to Boogie Cousins getting buckets in Puerto Rico right now, I believe.
Well, that is all I have. This is great. This is great to be back. It's just great. It started off interesting. Kamden couldn't speak early on. We couldn't hear him. But you know what? About 2 hours later, we got through it. I was going to say, Kyle got kicked off the game server. But we're here. We're here. All right. Well, this is the Warner Brothas podcast. Follow us on Warner Brothas Podcast on Instagram. Like, comment, share, subscribe on YouTube. Appreciate all the love. Appreciate the support. 100%. And we're out.